That child has your eyes. 4 words, spoken loud enough to stop an entire corporation mid-breath. The marble lobby of Cheonsung Technologies went silent as every head turned toward the black woman standing just inside the glass doors, her hand wrapped protectively around a 10-year-old girl whose face could have been carved from the same stone as the man frozen by the elevator. No appointment, no warning, just truth walking through security like it owned the building. The girl's grip tightened on her mother's fingers as phones emerged from pockets, as whispers rippled outward like cracks in ice. The CEO, Jun-Woo Kang, untouchable, engaged, worth billions, stared at the child as though she were a ghost made flesh. His phone clattered to the floor. The woman didn't flinch. She'd traveled 6,000 miles for this moment, and she wasn't leaving until Seoul's most powerful man acknowledged what he'd spent 11 years pretending didn't exist. If you're watching this story unfold, drop a comment with your city. I want to see how far truth can travel. And if this hits home, hit that like button and stay until the end. Because what happens next? No one saw coming. The morning had started like any other Thursday in Atlanta, except for the 2 packed suitcases by the door and the plane tickets tucked into Maya Richardson's purse. She'd rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in her mind, played out every possible scenario, prepared for every reaction except the one that mattered most, her daughter's. "Mommy, are we really going to meet him?" Zoe's voice was small, careful, the way it always got when she talked about the father who existed only in stories and a single faded photograph Maya kept in a lockbox under her bed. The girl sat on the edge of her twin bed, her backpack already zipped and waiting, her hands folded in her lap with a composure that broke Maya's heart every single time. 10 years old, and already she'd learned to make herself small, to not ask for too much, to accept that some questions didn't have easy answers. Maya knelt in front of her daughter, taking both small hands in hers. "We're going to Korea, baby. We're going to walk right into his building, and we're going to tell him the truth. And whatever happens after that, whatever he says or doesn't say, you're going to know that you tried, that you were brave enough to ask for what you deserve." "What if he doesn't want to see me?" The question landed like a blade between Maya's ribs. She'd asked herself the same thing every night for the past month, ever since she'd made the decision to stop protecting Jun-Woo Kang from the consequences of his choices. "Then that's his loss, sweetheart. Not yours. Never yours." Zoe nodded slowly, her dark eyes, his eyes, unmistakably, searching her mother's face for certainty. Maya gave her the strongest smile she could manage, even as her own doubts clawed at her resolve. She'd met Jun-Woo 11 years ago in Chicago, when he was still a graduate student at Northwestern, brilliant and ambitious and utterly magnetic. Maya had been finishing her master's in international business, working part-time at a campus coffee shop to cover expenses. He'd ordered an Americano every morning at 7:15, always polite, always distracted by whatever was on his laptop screen. It took him 3 weeks to ask her name, another 2 before he asked her out. What followed was 6 months of the kind of love that felt like falling and flying at the same time. Late nights talking about everything and nothing. Weekend trips to museums and hole-in-the-wall restaurants. Stolen hours in his tiny apartment where the world shrank down to just the 2 of them. He told her about his family's tech empire back in Seoul, about the pressure to return and take his place in the company. She told him about growing up in Atlanta, about her own dreams of building something meaningful in the global market. They'd made plans, vague, idealistic plans about bridging continents, about making it work despite the distance. And then she got pregnant. Maya still remembered the exact moment she told him. They were in Grant Park, sitting on a bench overlooking the lake. The early spring wind had been cold enough to sting, but Jun-Woo had wrapped his coat around her shoulders anyway. She'd practiced the words a dozen times, but when she finally said them, they came out simple and terrified. "I'm pregnant." He'd gone completely still. Not angry, not cruel, just absent. Like someone had turned off a switch inside him. "I need to think," he'd said, his voice distant and careful. I need to talk to my family." She'd given him space. 2 days, then a week. Then 2 weeks of unreturned calls and messages that piled up unread. By the time she finally tracked him down at his apartment, his bags were already packed. A one-way ticket to Seoul sat on his desk. "I can't do this, Maya. My family, they have expectations. The company needs me. I can't bring up. He'd stopped himself, but the word hung there anyway, unspoken but understood. Complication. She'd been 26 years old, pregnant, and watching the man she loved choose his inheritance over their child. I'll send money, he'd said, and that had been the moment she'd understood just how little he grasped what he was walking away from. I'll make sure you're taken care of. Maya had looked him in the eye and said the words that would define the next decade of her life. I don't want your money. I want you to be a father. He'd left anyway. Flew back to Seoul 2 days later. The money had shown up in her account exactly once, a wire transfer for $20,000 that she'd immediately returned. She'd blocked his number, deleted his emails unread, and made a promise to herself that her child would never feel like a burden someone paid to ignore. She'd raised Zoe alone, built a career in supply chain management for a major logistics firm, worked her way up to senior analyst, then director, bought a small house in a good school district, made sure Zoe had everything she needed: stability, love, opportunity. She'd done it without his help, without his name, without letting bitterness poison the life she was building. But as Zoe got older, the questions had started. Innocent at first. Why don't I have a daddy like other kids? Then more pointed. Does he know about me? And finally, the one that had broken Maya's resolve completely. Does he even care that I exist? 3 months ago, Maya had made a decision. Zoe deserved answers. Not maybes or somedays or carefully constructed stories about how sometimes people make choices they regret. Real answers. The kind that came from looking someone in the eye and asking directly. So she'd done her research, found out that Junwoo Kang was now the CEO of Cheonsung Technologies, one of South Korea's fastest-growing tech conglomerates. Found his office address. Discovered through a business profile that he was engaged to the daughter of another prominent Seoul family. A merger of dynasties as much as hearts. She'd booked the flights, applied for Zoe's first passport, prepared herself for the very real possibility that this trip would end in rejection and heartbreak. But at least it would end in truth. The flight from Atlanta to Seoul took nearly 17 hours, with a layover in Los Angeles that stretched into the early morning. Zoe slept fitfully against Maya's shoulder, her face peaceful in a way it rarely was when she was awake. Maya stayed up, watching the flight tracker creep across the Pacific, her mind running through scenarios and contingencies. She'd sent one email to Junwoo's corporate address a week before they left. Subject line: regarding a personal matter requiring immediate attention. Body: I will be at your office on April 18th at 2 p.m. You can choose to see me, or you can choose to have security remove me in front of your entire staff. Either way, we will have a conversation. She hadn't signed it, hadn't needed to. The email had gone unanswered. They landed at Incheon International Airport on a gray Thursday morning, the sky heavy with the promise of rain. Maya had splurged on a hotel near Junwoo's office building, a mid-range place that was clean and functional, nothing extravagant. She'd brought exactly 3 outfits, one for travel, one for the confrontation, one for whatever came after. Zoe had been quiet since they landed, her eyes wide as they navigated the subway system into the heart of Seoul. Maya watched her daughter take in the sprawling city, the endless high-rises, the dense crowds, the rapid-fire Korean conversations happening all around them. This was half of Zoe's heritage, a culture she'd never experienced, a language she didn't speak. It's so big, Zoe whispered as they emerged from the subway station near Cheonsung Tower. It is, Maya agreed, her hand tight around her daughter's. But we're not here to sightsee, baby. We're here for one thing. The Cheonsung building rose 40 stories above the street, all glass and steel and corporate power. Maya stood on the sidewalk across from it, staring up at the mirrored windows that reflected nothing but sky. Somewhere in that tower was the man who'd abandoned them, the man who'd chosen this empire, this legacy, over knowing his own child. Her phone buzzed. A text from her sister back in Atlanta. You got this. Call me when it's done. Maya took a breath, then another. Then she looked down at Zoe, who was staring at the building with an expression that was equal parts fear and determination. You ready? Zoe nodded, her jaw set in a way that reminded Maya painfully of Junwoo. I'm ready. They crossed the street together. The lobby of Cheonsung Technologies was everything Maya had expected. Polished marble floors, soaring ceilings, a massive digital display showcasing the company's latest innovations. Employees moved through the space with practiced efficiency, badges clipped to designer suits and blouses. The air smelled like expensive coffee and quiet wealth. Maya walked straight to the security desk, Zoe's hand clutched in hers. The guard behind the desk looked up with professional courtesy that flickered into confusion as he took in the black woman and mixed-race child standing before him. "Good afternoon," Maya said in clear, measured English. "I'm here to see Junwoo Kang." The guard's confusion deepened. "Do you have appointment?" "No." "CEO Kang does not see visitors without appointment. You must schedule through. Tell him Maya Richardson is here. Tell him I brought his daughter." The words cut through the lobby noise like a gunshot. The guard's eyes went wide. A woman passing nearby slowed her steps, openly staring. Maya felt the attention shift toward them, felt the weight of curious eyes and suddenly alert ears. I cannot." "Then call his office and tell them we're coming up, because I'm not leaving until he sees us." The guard reached for his phone, his hand shaking slightly. Maya didn't move, didn't flinch. She'd spent 11 years preparing for this moment, and she wasn't going to be turned away by a security desk. A voice spoke rapid Korean into the phone. Maya caught the tone, if not the words. Urgent, uncertain, seeking instruction from someone higher up the chain. Then, from across the lobby, she heard it. "Maya?" Her heart stopped. Junwoo Kang stood frozen near the elevator bank, his phone in one hand, a coffee in the other. He looked older than she remembered, sharper, more polished, the softness of his grad school days replaced by the hard edges of corporate power. His suit probably cost more than her mortgage payment. His watch caught the light like a warning. But his face? His face was the same. And as his eyes moved from Maya to the child standing beside her, she watched every ounce of color drain from it. Zoe stared at him with an intensity that made Maya's chest ache. This was the first time her daughter had seen her father in the flesh, the first time the man from the photograph had become real. Junwoo's coffee cup slipped from his fingers. It hit the marble with a crack that echoed through the suddenly silent lobby, dark liquid spreading across the pristine floor. "Hi, Daddy," Zoe said, her voice small but steady. "My name is Zoe." The elevator doors behind Junwoo opened. A woman stepped out, beautiful, immaculately dressed, a designer handbag on her arm. She started to speak to Junwoo in Korean, then stopped as she registered the scene unfolding in front of her. Junwoo didn't move, didn't speak. He just stared at Zoe like she was a ghost he'd spent 11 years running from, finally made flesh and standing in his lobby for everyone to see. Maya felt the phones come out, heard the whispers spreading, watched employees pause in doorways and at desks, watching the CEO of Cheonsung Technologies confront a past he'd clearly never told anyone about. "We need to talk," Maya said quietly. "Somewhere private. Now." Junwoo's throat worked. His eyes darted to the woman beside him, his fiancée, Maya realized with a cold certainty. Then back to Zoe. Then to Maya. His voice cracked. He tried again. Why are you? "Because your daughter deserves to know who her father is," Maya said, and there was no anger in her voice, just iron-hard truth. "Because she's 10 years old, and she's spent every birthday, every Father's Day, every school event wondering why you chose not to be there. Because I'm done protecting you from the consequences of running away." The fiancé spoke sharply in Korean. Junwoo answered without looking at her, his eyes locked on Zoe. "Please," he said finally, switching back to English. "Not here, not like this." "Then where?" Maya challenged. "Your office? A conference room? Some back hallway where you can pretend this isn't happening?" "The executive floor," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Conference room, please." Maya looked down at Zoe, whose face had gone pale but determined. "You okay, baby?" Zoe nodded. "I want to talk to him." "Okay." Maya squeezed her hand. "Okay." They moved toward the elevator as a unit, Maya and Zoe on one side, Junwoo and his fiancée on the other, with what felt like the entire lobby watching them go. The guard at the security desk was speaking urgently into his phone. A junior employee had her cell out, clearly recording. This wasn't going to stay quiet. Maya had known that walking in, had counted on it even. Jun Wukong had built his empire on the appearance of perfection, on careful public relations and strategic family alliances. She just walked into his lobby and shattered that illusion with 4 words. I brought his daughter. The elevator doors closed on the 4 of them. The silence was suffocating. Junwoo's fiancée spoke first, her English crisp and cold. Who is this woman? Junwoo, what is she talking about? Yejin, not now. Not now. The woman's voice rose. She just claimed that child is yours in front of half the company. You need to explain this right now. I said not now, Junwoo snapped, and something in his tone made the woman fall silent, though her eyes blazed with fury. Zoe pressed closer to Maya's side. Maya wrapped an arm around her daughter's shoulders, holding her steady. The elevator climbed in silence. 20 floors, 30, 35, the executive level. The doors opened onto a hallway that screamed power and money. Original artwork on the walls, thick carpeting that swallowed sound, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Seoul skyline. Junwoo led them to a conference room that could have seated 20 people, all glass walls and leather chairs, and a table polished to mirror brightness. He closed the door, turned to face them. His fiancée stood with her arms crossed, her expression murderous. Zoe sat down in one of the chairs, her feet not quite touching the ground, her hands folded on the table like she was waiting for a teacher to call on her. Maya remained standing. You need to leave, Junwoo said to his fiancée, his voice strained. Please. I need to handle this privately. Privately? Yejin's laugh was sharp enough to cut. You think I'm leaving you alone with a woman who just humiliated you in your own lobby, who claims to have your secret child? Are you insane? Hi, Yejin. Is it true? The question came out like a whip crack. Is that child yours? Junwoo's silence was answer enough. Yejin went very still. When she spoke again, her voice had dropped to something cold and dangerous. How long have you known? She never told me she was coming. How long have you known the child existed? Junwoo's eyes closed. 11 years. The slap echoed through the conference room like a gunshot. Zoe flinched. Maya moved instinctively to put herself between her daughter and the violence, but Hyejin was already backing away, her hand shaking, her face a mask of betrayal and rage. You've known for 11 years. We've been engaged for 2 years, Junwoo. 2 years. And you never thought to mention you had a child in America? It wasn't. You didn't think it mattered? Hyejin's voice cracked. You didn't think your secret daughter was worth mentioning to the woman you're supposed to marry in 3 months? Please, can we discuss this later? No, we discuss it now, in front of her. Hyejin gestured sharply at Maya. I want to hear exactly what happened. I want to hear how you ended up with a black mistress and a mixed-race child you've been hiding like some dirty secret. Watch your mouth, Maya said quietly, and something in her tone made Hyejin's attention snap to her. You can be angry at him all you want. You can scream and rage and throw whatever fit you need to. But you will not talk about my daughter like she's something shameful. She is a child. She didn't ask to be born into this mess. And if you can't be civil, you can get out. I can get out? Hyejin's laugh was incredulous. This is my fiancé's building. My family's company is partnered with his. You're the intruder here. Actually, Maya interrupted, I'm the mother of his child, which makes me a permanent part of his life whether you like it or not. So you can either sit down and listen, or you can leave and hear about it secondhand from whatever gossip is already spreading through this building. Your choice. Hyejin looked at Junwoo, who stood frozen between the 2 women, his face ashen. Are you going to let her speak to me like that? Hyejin, please, answer me. She's right, Junwoo said, and his voice sounded hollow. She's Zoe's mother. If she says the child is mine, then we need to have this conversation. If she says, Maya's voice went sharp. You want to pretend you don't remember, Junwoo? You want to act like you don't know exactly when and how Zoe was conceived? Because I can give you dates, times, locations. I can tell you about the apartment on Sherman Avenue, about the weekend we spent in that bed and breakfast in Wisconsin, about the morning I told you I was pregnant and you looked at me like I'd just destroyed your entire future. Zoe was crying now, silent tears tracking down her face. Maya's heart cracked, but she didn't stop. This was why they were here. For the truth. All of it. You left, Maya continued, her voice steady despite the emotion churning in her chest. You bought a plane ticket and you left. You sent money once, $20,000 like that could buy your way out of being a father. And when I sent it back, you never tried again. You didn't call. You didn't write. You didn't ask if the baby was born healthy, if it was a boy or a girl, if we needed anything. You just erased us. I thought it was better. Better for who? Maya demanded. For you? For your family? For your reputation? Because it sure as hell wasn't better for Zoe. Do you know what it's like to grow up wondering why your own father doesn't want you? Do you know what it does to a child to have half their heritage, half their identity, locked away in a country they've never seen with a man who acts like they don't exist? Junwoo's hands were shaking. I was 25 years old. I had responsibilities. My family was depending on me to come back and take over the company. If they'd known about a child out of wedlock with someone who wasn't Korean, it would have been a scandal, Maya finished. An embarrassment? Is that what your daughter is to you? An embarrassment? No. The word burst out of him like a dam breaking. No, that's not. I never meant. He looked at Zoe, really looked at her, and his face crumpled. I was scared. I was selfish. I told myself you'd be better off without me, that sending money was enough, that I was doing the right thing by not complicating your life. You didn't even try to know her name, Maya said, and her voice finally cracked. You didn't ask if she was okay. You didn't care enough to find out. I cared, Junwoo's voice broke. I cared so much I couldn't let myself think about it, about her, about what I'd left behind, because if I did, I'd have to face what kind of man that made me. And what kind of man is that? Maya asked. Before Junwoo could answer, the conference room door opened. A woman in her 60s swept in, followed by an older man in an expensive suit. Both of them radiated the kind of authority that came from decades of power and wealth. Junwoo went pale. Mother, father, what are you doing here? Your secretary called, the woman said in English, her accent thick but understandable. She looked at Maya and Zoe with barely concealed disgust. She said there was a situation, that you were meeting with an American woman and a child. Her gaze landed on Zoe, and her expression hardened into something cold and unmistakable. This, she said, her voice dripping with disdain, is the situation? Zoe shrank back in her chair. Maya stepped forward, placing herself between her daughter and Junwoo's mother. This, Maya said clearly, is your granddaughter. Her name is Zoe. She's 10 years old. She's brilliant, kind, and brave, and she came here hoping to meet her father's family. The woman's lip curled. We have no granddaughter. Junwoo has no children. Yes, he does, Maya said, and denying it doesn't make it any less true. The older man spoke in rapid Korean to Junwoo, who answered in the same language, his voice defensive and strained. The argument escalated quickly, voices rising, Hae-jin jumping in with her own sharp interjections. Maya caught none of the words but all of the meaning, denial, accusation, desperation. And through it all, Zoe sat at that conference table, listening to her father's family argue about whether she deserved to exist. Maya had known this would be hard, had prepared herself for rejection, for anger, for denial. But watching her daughter's face as she absorbed the reality of her father's world, watching hope die in real time in a child's eyes, that was a kind of pain Maya hadn't fully anticipated. She knelt beside Zoe's chair, taking her daughter's cold hands in hers. Baby, do you want to leave? We can go right now. We don't have to stay here. Zoe shook her head, her jaw set. I want to hear what he says. I want him to say it to me. Maya's throat tightened. Okay. Okay, baby. She stood up and faced the room full of adults who were still arguing like Zoe wasn't even there. Enough! The word came out louder than Maya intended. sharp enough to cut through the multilingual chaos. Everyone fell silent. You want to argue about family honor and business reputation and whatever else you're discussing in Korean? Fine. Do it on your own time. But right now there is a 10-year-old girl in this room who came halfway around the world to meet her father, and you're going to give her the respect of at least acknowledging she exists. Junwoo's mother drew herself up. This child is not part of our family. I'm standing right here, Zoe said, her voice small but clear. I can hear you. The woman turned to look at her, really look at her for the first time. Maya watched recognition flicker across her face, the shape of Zoe's eyes, the set of her jaw, features that were undeniably Kang family genetics, wrapped in brown skin and curly hair. You speak Korean? The woman asked sharply. No, ma'am, Zoe said, but my mom taught me to recognize when people are talking about me like I'm not in the room. Despite everything, Maya felt a flash of fierce pride. That was her daughter, small and scared but unwilling to be invisible. Junwoo's father spoke for the first time, his voice heavy with authority. We need proof. DNA test. If this child is Junwoo's, then what? Maya interrupted. You'll acknowledge her, accept her, or will you just find another excuse to pretend she doesn't exist? If the test proves paternity, arrangements will be made. Financial support. Education. But quietly. This cannot become public. It's already public, Maya said flatly. Your son's lobby security cameras recorded the whole thing. Half his employees saw us walk in, and I guarantee someone posted about it on social media before we even got in the elevator. So if you're hoping to bury this, you're about 10 minutes too late. Junwoo's mother's face went white. She turned on her son, unleashing a torrent of Korean that needed no translation. Junwoo stood there and took it, his head bowed, his hands clenched at his sides. Yejin watched it all with a strange expression. Not satisfaction exactly, but a kind of grim vindication. The perfect family she'd been about to marry into was fracturing in real time, and she seemed to be calculating what that meant for her own future. Maya's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Are you the American woman at Cheongsong? My friend works there. This is blowing up online. She showed the screen to Junwoo's father. Like I said, already public. The man's jaw tightened. He spoke briefly to his wife in Korean, then turned back to Maya. DNA test. Tomorrow. We use private clinic, keep results confidential. You agree to this? Absolutely, Maya said. I've got nothing to hide. And if results are negative? They won't be. But if they are, we'll leave, and you'll never hear from us again. And if positive? Maya looked at Zoe, then back at the Kangs. Then you acknowledge her, publicly. No hiding, no shame, no pretending she's anything other than what she is, your son's daughter and your granddaughter. Those are my terms. You are in no position to make terms. Actually, I'm in the perfect position, Maya said calmly, because I'm the one who can make this either a private family matter or a full-blown public scandal. Your choice. The room fell silent. Junwoo's mother looked like she wanted to murder Maya where she stood. His father's expression was calculating, weighing options and consequences. Hyejin spoke suddenly, her voice cutting. I'm calling off the engagement. Junwoo's head snapped up. What? You heard me. She pulled the diamond ring off her finger and set it on the conference table with a decisive click. I will not marry a man who hid a child from me for 2 years. I will not tie my family's reputation to this disaster. We're done. Hyejin, please, if you just... There's nothing to discuss. She looked at Maya with something that might have been respect under different circumstances. You're right, she deserves acknowledgement, but I don't deserve this humiliation. She walked out without another word, her heels sharp against the floor. Junwoo stared at the closed door, his face the color of ash. His mother immediately began speaking to him in urgent Korean, probably trying to convince him to go after Hyejin, to salvage the engagement and the business partnership it represented. But Junwoo wasn't looking at his mother. He was looking at Zoe. I'm sorry, he said, and his voice was raw. I'm so sorry you had to see all of this. Are you my father? Zoe asked, direct as only a child could be. Junwoo's eyes filled with tears. Yes, I am. Then why didn't you want me? The question hung in the air like a blade. Maya saw Junwoo's mother open her mouth to interfere, and she shot the woman a look that could have melted steel. Don't you dare. Junwoo knelt down, bringing himself to Zoe's eye level. It wasn't that I didn't want you. I was scared. I didn't know how to be a father. I didn't know how to explain you to my family, how to make you fit into the life they expected me to live. So I convinced myself that leaving was better for everyone, that your mom would find someone better, that you'd grow up happier without me around to complicate things. That's stupid, Zoe said, and Maya bit back an inappropriate urge to laugh. Yeah, Junwoo agreed, a broken smile flickering across his face. Yeah, it was really stupid. My mom's been alone my whole life because of you. She works really hard. She does everything by herself. She didn't need to do that. You should have helped her. You're right. I should have. And I don't have a dad at school stuff. Everyone else has dads, and I just have my mom. And she's amazing, but it's not the same. Junwoo's face crumpled. I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Zoe studied him for a long moment, her expression far too old for her years. Do you even know when my birthday is? The question landed like a physical blow. Junwoo's silence was its own answer. August 14th, Zoe said quietly. I turned 10 this year. Mom made me a cake, chocolate with vanilla frosting. She always makes me a cake, and she always sings happy birthday, and she always tells me she loves me enough for 2 parents, but it's not enough because there's supposed to be 2. Maya's vision blurred. She'd always tried so hard to be enough, to fill the space Junwoo had left behind. But Zoe was right. It wasn't the same. It had never been the same. August 14th, Junwoo repeated, his voice breaking. I should have been there. I should have been there for all of them. You should have, Zoe agreed. Then with devastating simplicity, so what are you going to do now? It was the question everyone in the room had been avoiding, the one that cut through all the posturing and accusations and demands. The only question that actually mattered. Junwoo looked at his parents, at the empty space where Hyejin had been standing, at Maya, whose expression gave him nothing, and finally, back at Zoe. I don't know, he admitted. But I want to figure it out, if you'll let me. Depends, Zoe said with a pragmatism that broke Maya's heart. Are you going to run away again? No. Are you going to hide me from people? Junwoo glanced at his mother, who looked like she was about to have a stroke. No. No more hiding. Are you going to tell me the truth even when it's hard? Yes. Zoe nodded slowly. Okay. Then we can try. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't even acceptance, really, but it was a door left open, a possibility offered. And for now, it was enough. Maya felt the weight of 11 years start to shift, not disappearing but redistributing into something that might eventually be bearable. Junwoo's father spoke again, all business. DNA test. Tomorrow morning, we send car for you. Where you stay? Maya gave him the hotel name. He nodded curtly. Results take 2 days. We meet again when we have proof. Then we discuss arrangements. No arrangements until I see how you treat her, Maya corrected. DNA test proves biology, but it doesn't prove you deserve to be in her life. That part you'll have to earn. The man's eyebrows rose, but he didn't argue. Maybe because he recognized that Maya held all the cards here. Maybe because somewhere under the corporate armor he understood she was right. Junwoo's mother remained silent, her disapproval radiating like heat. But she didn't protest either. Perhaps she was already calculating how to spin this, how to control the narrative, how to protect the family's image. None of that was Maya's problem. We're leaving, she said, holding out her hand to Zoe. We'll be at the hotel. You have the address. Send the car whenever you want. But Zoe and I are done for today. Zoe slid out of the chair and took her mother's hand. As they walked toward the door, Junwoo spoke. Zoe? She turned back. Thank you, he said quietly, for being brave enough to come here, for giving me a chance I don't deserve. Zoe didn't smile, didn't offer reassurance. She just nodded once and let her mother lead her out. The elevator ride down was silent. The lobby was busy with end-of-day activity, employees streaming toward exits, security stationed at the doors. Maya caught the stares, the whispers, the phones quickly tucked away as they passed. Let them stare. Let them whisper. The truth was out now, and there was no putting it back. Outside, the Seoul evening had turned cool, the sky fading to purple above the city's glowing skyline. Maya hailed a taxi and gave the driver their hotel address in stilted but functional Korean she'd learned from a language app. Zoe leaned against her in the back seat, exhausted. "Mommy? Yeah, baby? Do you think he meant it? About not running away?" Maya kissed the top of her daughter's head, breathing in the familiar scent of her shampoo. "I don't know, sweetheart, but if he doesn't mean it, we'll be okay anyway. We always are." "I know," Zoe said softly. I wanted him to be better than that." "Me too, baby. Me too." The taxi carried them through the Seoul traffic, past the glittering towers and crowded streets of a city that was half of Zoe's heritage but still completely foreign. Somewhere in one of those towers, Jun-woo Kang was probably dealing with the fallout of the bomb Maya had just dropped into his perfectly constructed life. She didn't feel guilty, didn't feel triumphant either, just tired and sad and fiercely, protectively in love with the resilient little girl falling asleep against her shoulder. They'd come to Seoul for answers. They'd gotten some of them, though not all, and not in the way Maya had hoped. But they'd also gotten something else, proof that Zoe could stand in front of the people who'd rejected her existence and demand to be seen anyway, that she could look her father in the eye and ask the hard questions, that she was stronger than the circumstances that had brought her into the world. Whatever happened with the DNA test, whatever arrangements or custody discussions or family politics lay ahead, Maya knew one thing with absolute certainty. Zoe would be okay. Because she was Maya's daughter, raised with love and truth and the unshakable knowledge that her worth wasn't determined by who chose to acknowledge her. The rest, the Kang's acceptance, Junwoo's redemption, the resolution of 11 years of absence, all of that was still uncertain. But tonight, in a hotel room in Seoul with her daughter safe beside her, that uncertainty felt manageable. They'd walked into the lion's den and walked back out intact. And tomorrow, they'd do it again. The hotel room felt smaller than it had that morning, the walls pressing in with the weight of everything that had happened. Maya sat on the edge of one of the twin beds, watching Zoe pick at the room service dinner neither of them had much appetite for. The chicken teriyaki sat mostly untouched, the rice going cold in its bowl. "You should eat something, baby," Maya said gently, though her own plate looked just as neglected. Zoe pushed a piece of broccoli around with her fork. "I'm not really hungry." "I know, but you need to keep your strength up. Tomorrow's going to be another long day." "The DNA test." Zoe set down her fork. "Do you think his parents will be nicer once they know for sure?" Maya wanted to lie, to offer the kind of comforting reassurance mothers were supposed to give. But she'd built their relationship on truth, even when it hurt. "I don't know, sweetheart. Some people's minds are already made up, regardless of what the science says. But at least we'll have proof. No one can deny you after that." "His mom hates me." It wasn't a question. "She doesn't hate you. She doesn't even know you." Maya reached across and took her daughter's hand. "She hates the situation. She hates that her perfect world got complicated. That's not about you, Zoe. That's about her. It feels like it's about me. I know it does. And that's not fair, and I'm sorry you have to deal with it. But you listen to me." Maya waited until Zoe met her eyes. "You are not a complication. You are not a scandal. You are not a problem to be managed. You are a person, and you deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. If they can't do that, then we get back on a plane and we go home, and we build the beautiful life we already have without them." "But what if he really means it?" Zoe's voice went small. "What if he really wants to try?" There it was, the question that had been haunting Maya since they'd left Cheongsong Tower. The possibility that Junwoo might actually step up, might actually try to be a father, terrified her almost as much as the possibility that he wouldn't. Because if he tried and failed, if he promised and then disappeared again, it would break Zoe's heart in ways Maya couldn't protect her from. "Then we'll figure it out," Maya said finally, "one day at a time. But we don't make it easy for him, understand? He doesn't get to waltz in and play daddy when it's convenient. He has to earn the privilege of being in your life. Zoe nodded slowly, then pushed her plate away entirely. Can I take a bath? Of course. I'll get it started for you. While the tub filled, Maya's phone buzzed with notifications she'd been ignoring since they left the tower. Messages from her sister, her mother, her best friend, all wanting updates, all worried. A few emails from her job back in Atlanta, routine stuff that felt surreal given everything happening here. And one notification that made her stomach drop, a tagged mention on Twitter. She opened it with shaking hands. Someone had posted a photo taken in the Cheonsung lobby, grainy and shot from a distance, but clear enough. Maya and Zoe standing at the security desk, Junwoo frozen near the elevators, his coffee mid-fall. The caption was in Korean, but Twitter's translation feature made the meaning clear. Cheonsung CEO's secret American family shows up unannounced, staff in shock. The post had been retweeted 47 times. The replies were a mix of Korean and English, speculation and gossip, and a few surprisingly sympathetic comments about the beautiful little girl who looks just like CEO Kang. Maya closed the app. This was exactly what she'd expected, what she'd warned the Kangs about, but seeing it in writing, watching their private trauma become public entertainment, still made her feel sick. Mommy, the water's ready. Maya helped Zoe into the bath, then sat on the closed toilet lid while her daughter played with the complimentary hotel soap, making bubbles that caught the bathroom light. It was such a normal domestic moment in the middle of such an abnormal situation. Tell me a story, Zoe said, the way she had since she was 3 years old. A happy one. So Maya told her about the first time she'd held her, how tiny Zoe had been, how her eyes had opened and seemed to look right into Maya's soul, how in that moment every ounce of fear and uncertainty had transformed into fierce, protective love. She didn't mention that Junwoo had been halfway across the Pacific when it happened, or that she'd cried for 3 hours after the nurses left because she'd never felt so alone and so complete at the same time. She just told Zoe about being wanted, being loved, being enough exactly as she was. By the time Zoe was in her pajamas and tucked into bed, it was nearly 10 o'clock. Maya lay down on her own bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing too fast for sleep. Her phone rang. An unknown Korean number. Maya answered cautiously. Hello? Ms. Richardson, this is Junwoo. Her heart kicked hard against her ribs. She sat up, glancing at Zoe to make sure she was asleep. What do you want? I wanted to check if you and Zoe made it back to your hotel safely. His voice sounded exhausted. And to apologize. For my mother. For Hyejin. For all of it. You don't need to apologize for other people's reactions, Maya said quietly. You need to apologize for your choices. And an apology over the phone doesn't really cut it after 11 years. I know, He paused. I've been sitting here for hours trying to figure out what to say to you, what to say to her, how to explain something I don't fully understand myself. You were scared. You said so yourself. Scared of disappointing your family, scared of responsibility, scared of having to choose between the life you wanted and the life you created. Maya kept her voice low, aware of Zoe sleeping a few feet away. The problem is, you chose the easy path. You chose yourself, and a 10-year-old girl paid the price for that. I sent money. Money isn't love, Junwoo. Money isn't showing up to school plays or teaching her to ride a bike or staying up all night when she has the flu. Money is what you send when you want to ease your guilt without actually doing the work. The silence on the other end stretched long enough that Maya thought he might have hung up. You're right, he said finally. You're completely right. And I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to make up for all those years. You can't, Maya said bluntly. Those years are gone. You can't get them back. The only thing you can do is show up for the years ahead if Zoe decides she wants you in them. Does she want me in them? Maya looked at her sleeping daughter, at the way Zoe's hand was curled under her cheek, at the faint worry line between her eyebrows that shouldn't exist on a 10-year-old's face. She wants a father. Whether that's you specifically or just the idea of you, I'm not sure she knows yet. But I'll tell you this. She deserves better than empty promises and half measures. So if you're going to try, you actually have to try. Not when it's convenient, not when your family allows it. All the way. The DNA test is scheduled for 9 tomorrow morning. A car will pick you up at 8:30. We'll be ready. Another pause, then quieter. She really does have my eyes. Maya's throat tightened. Yeah, she does. Everyone who's ever seen your picture agrees. It's the first thing people notice, how much she looks like you. She used to stare at that photo for hours when she was little, trying to find herself in your face. She heard Junwoo's breath cat. I want to know her, Maya. I want to know everything I missed. What she likes, what makes her laugh, what scares her. I want... His voice broke. I want to be her father, not just biologically, actually be there. Then prove it, Maya said. Show up tomorrow. Take the test. Handle whatever fallout comes from your family and the media and everyone else with opinions, and then keep showing up even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. I will. I promise. Don't promise me, Maya said. Promise her. When she's awake and looking you in the eye, then keep that promise every single day. She hung up before he could respond, her hands shaking. She'd spent 11 years building a life without him, convincing herself they didn't need him, that Zoe was better off without a father who didn't want to be there. And now here he was, saying all the right things, and Maya had no idea if she could trust a single word. Sleep came in fragments, broken by anxiety dreams and the unfamiliar sounds of a Seoul hotel. When Maya's alarm went off at 7, she felt like she'd barely closed her eyes. Zoe was already awake, sitting by the window and watching the morning traffic below. The car's coming soon, right? In an hour and a half. You want breakfast first? They ordered room service again, toast and fruit and orange juice that Zoe drank but didn't eat much else. Maya forced down some coffee that tasted like burned rubber but did its job of clearing the fog from her brain. At 8:15, she helped Zoe get dressed in the outfit they'd planned. Jeans, a purple sweater, sneakers. Simple, comfortable, appropriate. Maya chose dark slacks and a blouse, professional armor for whatever the day would bring. At 8:29, the hotel phone rang. The car was waiting downstairs. The driver was a quiet man in his 50s who spoke minimal English, but seemed kind, offering Zoe a piece of candy from the front seat that she politely declined. They drove through morning Seoul, the city fully awake now, streets packed with cars and pedestrians, and the relentless energy of 8 million people going about their lives. The clinic was in an upscale medical building in Gangnam, all marble and glass and expensive discretion. A woman in pristine medical whites greeted them at the private entrance, speaking careful English as she led them to a consultation room. Junwoo was already there, so were his parents. No Hyejin. That engagement was clearly done. Junwoo stood when they entered, his face a mixture of relief and nerves. Maya, Zoe, thank you for coming. Did we have a choice? Maya asked evenly, though she kept her voice civil for Zoe's sake. Junwoo's mother sat ramrod straight in her chair, her expression carved from ice. His father looked marginally less hostile, but only marginally. A doctor entered, a woman in her 40s with a professional smile and a clipboard. Good morning, I am Dr. Kim. I will be conducting the paternity test today. The process is very simple. We will take a cheek swab from the child and from the potential father. The samples will be sent to our laboratory for analysis. Results typically take 48 hours, but we have requested a rush processing. You should have your results by tomorrow evening. And the results are confidential, Junwoo's father asked. Completely. The report will be sent only to the email addresses you provide. No physical copies unless you request them. We want complete discretion, the older man insisted. This cannot leak to media. Dr. Kim's smile remained professional. I understand. Our clinic specializes in sensitive cases. Your privacy is guaranteed. She turned to Zoe, her expression softening. And you must be Zoe. This won't hurt at all, I promise. It's just like when the doctor checks your throat, but I'm going to rub a cotton swab on the inside of your cheek. It takes maybe 5 seconds. Is that okay? Zoe looked at Maya, who nodded encouragement. It's okay, baby, just like she said. The procedure took less than 2 minutes. Zoe sat still while Dr. Kim swabbed the inside of her cheek, then watched with interest as the sample was sealed in a sterile tube and labeled with a number rather than her name. Junwoo's sample took even less time. All finished? Dr. Kim said brightly. The samples will go to the lab within the hour. We will contact you as soon as results are ready. Junwoo's father stood immediately. We go now. We will meet again when there is proof. Actually, Junwoo said, and everyone turned to look at him. I'd like to spend some time with Zoe today, if that's okay with Maya. His mother's face went tight with disapproval. Junwoo, this is not appropriate. She's my daughter, Mother. Whether the test confirms it or not, I already know, and I'd like to get to know her. The scandal is already happening, Junwoo said, his voice firm in a way Maya hadn't heard before. I checked social media this morning. We're trending on Korean Twitter. The business news sites are picking it up. Trying to hide isn't going to make it go away. The only thing I can control is how I handle it from here. His mother stood abruptly, speaking rapid Korean that needed no translation, disapproval, anger, demands. Junwoo responded in the same language, his tone respectful but unyielding. The argument escalated until his father cut in with a sharp word that silenced them both. The older man looked at Maya. If we allow this, you will be present at all times. No unsupervised contact until paternity is confirmed. I wasn't planning on leaving her alone with him anyway, Maya said. And we're only here until Saturday. After that, we're flying home. So if he wants time with Zoe, it needs to be now. Junwoo's mother looked like she wanted to protest further, but her husband placed a hand on her arm. They exchanged a long look, some silent marital communication, and then she gathered her purse with jerky, angry movements. Tomorrow evening, she said to Junwoo in English, her accent thick with emotion. When the test results come, we discuss this properly. Until then, do not make promises you cannot keep. She swept out of the room like a departing storm. Junwoo's father lingered a moment longer. Be careful, my son, he said quietly in English, his eyes on Zoe. With her heart, and with your own. Then he was gone too, leaving Junwoo standing awkwardly in the sterile consultation room, looking at the daughter he'd never parented and the woman he'd abandoned. So, Maya said into the silence, you wanted to spend time with Zoe. What did you have in mind? Junwoo looked helpless. I don't actually know. What do 10-year-old girls like to do? Despite everything, Maya almost laughed. Zoe, what do you think? Your father wants to hang out. You interested? Zoe studied Junwoo with the same careful evaluation she'd used in the conference room. Can we go somewhere that's not a hospital or an office? Absolutely, Junwoo said quickly. Anywhere you want. Do you like parks, museums? There's a great science center not far from here. I want to see where Korean kids go, Zoe interrupted. Not tourist stuff, real places. Junwoo blinked, clearly not having expected that answer. Then something shifted in his expression, surprise giving way to what might have been respect. Okay, yeah, I know a place. They ended up in Hongdae, a neighborhood Junwoo explained was popular with students and young people. The streets were lined with cafes and street food vendors, and shops selling everything from K-pop merchandise to handmade jewelry. Even mid-morning on a Friday, the area buzzed with energy. Zoe's eyes went wide, taking it all in. It's so colorful. You should see it at night, Junwoo said. There are street performers and artists everywhere. The whole place comes alive. They walked through the streets at Zoe's pace, Junwoo pointing out different shops and explaining what they sold. He bought Zoe a hotteok from a street vendor, a sweet pancake filled with brown sugar and cinnamon that made her eyes light up with the first bite. This is amazing, she said through a mouthful of pastry. Junwoo smiled, a real smile that transformed his whole face. It was my favorite when I was your age. My father used to take me to get them after school sometimes. Did you grow up in Seoul? Zoe asked. I did. Not too far from here, actually, in Gangnam, where the clinic was. Is that a nice area? It's expensive, Junwoo said carefully. Lots of money, lots of pressure to be successful. It wasn't always easy. They found a bench in a small park where old men were playing baduk and mothers watched toddlers on playground equipment. Maya sat slightly apart, giving them space but staying close enough to intervene if needed. Can I ask you questions? Zoe said, finishing her hotteok and wiping her hands on the napkin Junwoo provided. Of course. Anything. Why did you really leave? Not the thing about being scared, I got that part, but why was having me so scary that you had to run away? Junwoo was quiet for a long time, his hands clasped between his knees. My parents raised me to believe that everything I did reflected on our family. Every choice, every action, every relationship. When I met your mom, I knew my parents would never approve. She wasn't Korean, she wasn't from a family they knew, she didn't fit into their plan for my life. So you dated her anyway? I did, because I loved her. Junwoo glanced at Maya, who kept her expression neutral. I thought I could make it work, that I could somehow have both the life I wanted with your mom and the life my family expected. But when your mom got pregnant, I realized I couldn't. I had to choose. And I chose wrong. You chose your family over us. I chose fear over love, Junwoo corrected. I chose the easy path over the right one. I told myself your mom would be better off without me, that you would be too, that sending money made up for not being there. But none of that was true. It was just what I needed to believe so I could live with myself. Zoe absorbed this, her expression thoughtful. Do you have other kids? With someone your family approved of? No, I never married. I was engaged to Hyejin. You met her yesterday, but that's over now. Because of me? Because she deserved honesty, and I didn't give it to her, Junwoo said. That's not your fault, Zoe. None of this is your fault. Your mom thinks it is. I could tell. Junwoo's jaw tightened. My mother thinks in terms of appearances and reputation. She sees you as a threat to the family image. But she's wrong. You're not a threat. You're just a person who deserves to exist without apologizing for it. That's what Mom always says. Your mom is right. About that, and about a lot of things. Junwoo looked at Maya again. She's an incredible mother. She raised you to be brave and smart and kind. I can see it in how you carry yourself, how you ask questions, how you stand up for what's right. That all came from her. Maya felt her throat go tight. She hadn't expected Junwoo to acknowledge her like that, to give credit where it was due. Zoe seemed to consider this. What happens after the test? When it proves I'm yours? I don't know yet, Junwoo admitted. That depends on a lot of things. What you want, what your mom wants, what we can figure out that works for everyone. But I'd like to be in your life if you'll let me. Not just as a name on a birth certificate or a bank account sending money, actually there. How? We live in America. You live here. People make long-distance relationships work all the time. We could video call. I could visit. Maybe you could visit here sometimes, when you're older and if you want to. What about your parents? Would they even let me visit? Junwoo's expression hardened. That's not their decision. You're my daughter. If they can't accept you, that's their problem, not yours. You say that now, Zoe said, and there was a world weariness in her voice that broke Maya's heart. But what happens when they give you an ultimatum? What happens when they make you choose again? The question hung in the spring air, cutting and accurate. Junwoo had chosen his family over Zoe once before. What guarantee did she have that he wouldn't do it again? I can't promise I'll be perfect, Junwoo said quietly. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to mess up, probably a lot, because I have no idea how to be a father. But I promise I won't run again. I promise I'll show up, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. How do I know you mean it? You don't. Not yet. All you have is my word, and I know that's not worth much after 11 years. But I'm asking for the chance to prove it. Not tomorrow, not all at once. Just one day at a time. Zoe looked at her mother. Maya gave her a small nod. This is your choice, baby. I'll support whatever you decide. Okay, Zoe said finally. One day at a time. But if you disappear again, I'm done. I won't give you another chance after that. That's fair, Junwoo said, and he sounded like he meant it. They spent the rest of the morning wandering through Hongdae. Junwoo took them to a cafe that specialized in themed desserts, where Zoe ordered something that arrived looking like a miniature garden, complete with edible flowers. They walked through a street art alley where every wall was covered in murals and graffiti. Junwoo bought Zoe a small ceramic turtle from an artist's stall, explaining that turtles symbolize longevity and wisdom in Korean culture. so I can remember today," he said as he handed it to her. Zoe held the turtle carefully, running her thumb over its painted shell. "Thank you." Around 1 o'clock, they stopped for lunch at a casual restaurant that served bibimbap. Junwoo showed Zoe how to mix all the ingredients together with the gochujang sauce, how to get a little bit of everything in each bite. "This is really good," Zoe said, her mouth full of rice and vegetables and perfectly seasoned beef. "Korean food is all about balance," Junwoo explained. "Sweet and spicy, soft and crunchy, different flavors and textures that work together." "Like a family," Zoe said, and Maya saw Junwoo freeze mid-bite. "Yeah," he said softly, "like a family." After lunch, they walked along the Han River, where people were flying kites and riding bikes and enjoying the unseasonably warm day. Zoe ran ahead to watch the kites, her new ceramic turtle tucked safely in her jacket pocket. Junwoo walked beside Maya, maintaining a respectful distance. "Thank you for this, for letting me have this time with her." "I'm not doing it for you," Maya said. "I'm doing it for Zoe. She deserves the chance to know you, to decide for herself what kind of relationship she wants. But make no mistake, if you hurt her, if you let her down, I will make sure you never get near her again." "I understand, and Maya—" He stopped walking, turning to face her. "I'm sorry for all of it. For leaving you alone when you needed me most. For not being there when Zoe was born. For missing 10 years of her life because I was too much of a coward to face my responsibilities. Your apology doesn't change the past. I know, but I'm hoping it might change the future. Not between us. I know that ship sailed a long time ago, but maybe it can change what happens with Zoe. Maybe I can be the father she deserves, even if I wasn't before." Maya looked at him, really looked at him for the first time since they'd reconnected. He looked tired, older than his 36 years, worn down by guilt and regret. But there was also something new in his expression, determination. Like he'd finally stopped running and was ready to stand still long enough to face what he'd done. "Actions, Junwoo, not words. Show Zoe you mean it through what you do, not what you say." "I will. I am." They collected Zoe and headed back toward their hotel as the afternoon stretched into early evening. In the car, Zoe fell asleep against Maya's shoulder, exhausted from the emotional marathon of the past 2 days. "She's beautiful," Junwoo said quietly, watching his daughter sleep. "And so much smarter than I expected for 10. "She had to grow up faster than she should have," Maya said. "When you're the kid without a dad, you learn to be independent early. You learn to not ask for things you know you can't have." Junwoo's face crumpled. "I did that to her. I made her feel like she couldn't ask for a father." "Yeah, you did. And now you have to live with that knowledge and do better going forward." "I will. I swear I will." When they reached the hotel, Junwoo walked them to the lobby. Zoe had woken up during the elevator ride and was clinging to the ceramic turtle like a talisman. "Thank you for today," she said to Junwoo, her voice small and tired. "I had fun." Junwoo knelt down to her level. "I did too. Best day I've had in a long time. Can we do it again tomorrow after we get the test results?" Zoe looked at Maya, who nodded. "If you want to, baby." "I want to," Zoe said. Then, tentatively, she stepped forward and hugged Junwoo, quick and awkward, but unmistakably genuine. Junwoo froze for a moment, then wrapped his arms carefully around his daughter, his eyes squeezing shut as if trying to memorize the feel of her. When they pulled apart, his face was wet with tears he didn't bother to hide. "See you tomorrow, Zoe." "See you tomorrow." Maya and Zoe rode the elevator back to their room in silence. Only when the door closed behind them did Maya let herself breathe properly, the tension of the day finally releasing from her shoulders. "Mom," Zoe's voice was tentative. "Yeah, baby." "Do you think he's really going to be different this time?" Maya pulled her daughter close, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "I think he wants to be. Whether he can actually do it, we'll find out. But no matter what happens with him, you and I are solid. Always." "I know," Zoe whispered. "I just want him to try." "That's stupid?" "No, sweetheart. It's not stupid at all. It's human. Everyone wants their parents to show up for them." That night, Maya lay awake long after Zoe had fallen asleep, her mind churning through everything that had happened. Junwoo's apology, the tentative connection forming between father and daughter, the absolute certainty that his family would fight this every step of the way. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. She opened it cautiously. "This is Junwoo. I know it's late, but I wanted to say thank you again. Today was a gift I didn't deserve. I won't waste it." Maya stared at the message for a long time before responding. "Don't thank me. Thank Zoe. She's the one who decided to give you a chance. Don't make her regret it." His response came quickly. "I won't. I promise." Maya set the phone down, exhaustion finally pulling her towards sleep. Tomorrow, they'd get the test results. Tomorrow, they'd find out if the Kang family would acknowledge Zoe or try to bury her existence with money and NDAs and all the tools wealthy people use to make inconvenient truths disappear. But tonight, Zoe had hugged her father for the first time in her life. Tonight, Junwoo had looked at his daughter with something that might actually grow into love. And for now, that fragile possibility was enough. The results arrived at 4:30 Saturday afternoon, delivered by email with the clinical precision that defined everything in Junwoo's world. Maya sat on the hotel bed with her laptop open, Zoe pressed against her side, both of them staring at the message in her inbox like it might detonate if opened wrong. "Should I click it?" Maya asked, though she wasn't sure if she was talking to Zoe or herself. "We already know what it says," Zoe pointed out, her voice steadier than her grip on Maya's arm. "The test is just paperwork." "Still, you ready?" Zoe nodded. Maya clicked. The document loaded slowly, medical terminology and reference numbers filling the screen before the conclusion appeared in bold text at the bottom. Probability of paternity, 99.9997%. Conclusion. Junwoo Kang cannot be excluded as the biological father of Zoe Richardson. "There it is," Maya said quietly, though her heart was hammering hard enough to hurt. "Official proof that you're his daughter." I already knew that too," Zoe said, but her eyes were fixed on the screen, scanning the numbers like they might reveal something more than biology. "Does this change anything?" "Everything and nothing," Maya admitted. "It means his family can't deny you exist, but it doesn't mean they'll accept you, and it doesn't guarantee your father will follow through on what he promised." Her phone rang before Zoe could respond. Junwoo's name lit up the screen. Maya answered on speaker. "I'm guessing you got the email too." "I did." Junwoo's voice was thick, like he'd been crying or was about to start. "Maya, I know what the paper says, but I already knew. The moment I saw her in the lobby, I knew. She has my mother's nose, my father's chin, my eyes. She's—" His voice broke completely. "She's mine." Zoe's face did something complicated that Maya couldn't quite read. Pride, maybe, or validation, or just the simple relief of being claimed after 10 years of existing in limbo. "So what happens now?" Maya asked. "My parents want to meet. Tonight. At their house. They want to discuss—" He paused, clearly choosing his words carefully. "Arrangements." Maya felt ice settle in her stomach. Arrangements was corporate speak for contracts, for settlements, for all the ways wealthy families made problems disappear. "What kind of arrangements?" "I don't know yet. They won't tell me. They just said we all need to sit down as a family and figure out how to handle this going forward." "We're not going to their house," Maya said flatly. "Neutral territory or nothing. I'm not walking into their domain where they control everything." "The Peninsula Hotel has private dining rooms. I can book one for 7 o'clock. Will that work?" Maya looked at Zoe, who nodded. "We'll be there. But Junwoo, if your parents try to buy us off or make Zoe sign some kind of non-disclosure agreement, we're walking out. I'm not negotiating her existence." "I won't let them do that. I promise." "We'll see," Maya said, and hung up before he could make more promises he might not be able to keep. She had 3 hours to prepare Zoe for whatever was coming. 3 hours to put on armor and get ready for a battle she'd been training for since the moment she decided to get on that plane to Seoul. She dressed Zoe in the nicest outfit they'd brought, a navy dress with white trim that made her look older than 10, more sophisticated, less like a child who could be dismissed or ignored. Maya chose a charcoal pantsuit that meant business, pulled her hair back into a sleek bun, put on the pearl earrings her mother had given her when she graduated with her master's degree. "We look like we're going to court," Zoe observed, studying their reflection in the hotel mirror. "In a way we are," Maya said. "We're going to argue your case in front of a jury that's already decided you're guilty of existing. So we need to look like we belong at their table, like we can't be intimidated or bought or made to feel small." "I am small, though," Zoe said with the brutal honesty of childhood. "I'm 10 and I'm only 4'6", and his mom already hates me." Maya knelt down, taking her daughter's face in both hands. "Listen to me. You are not small. You are mighty. You walked into that tower and faced down your father without flinching. You asked the hard questions and demanded real answers. That takes more courage than most adults have. So tonight, when his family tries to make you feel like you don't deserve a seat at that table, you remember who you are. You're Zoe Richardson. You're my daughter. And you belong anywhere you choose to stand." Zoe's eyes filled, but the tears didn't fall. "What if they offer us money? Would we take it? Do we need their money?" "No. You have a good job. We have a house. We're okay." "That's right. So if they offer money, we say no thank you. Because the only thing you need from them is acknowledgement and respect. And those things don't have a price tag." The car Junwoo sent arrived at 6:30, giving them time to get to the peninsula without rushing. The driver was different this time, a younger man who spoke better English and tried to make small talk about Seoul's tourist attractions until Maya's monosyllabic responses made it clear she wasn't in the mood. The Peninsula Hotel rose above the city like a monument to wealth and power, all classical European architecture and perfectly manicured grounds. Maya had looked it up earlier. Rooms started at $500 a night. Suites went for thousands. This was the world Junwoo inhabited now, so far removed from the grad student apartment in Chicago that they might as well have been different planets. A hostess in an immaculate uniform met them at the entrance and led them through hallways decorated with artwork that probably cost more than Maya's annual salary. The private dining room was at the end of a quiet corridor, its door already open to reveal a table set for 6 with china and crystal that caught the chandelier light like captured stars. Junwoo stood near the window, his parents seated at the table with the rigid posture of people preparing for an unpleasant but necessary task. Junwoo's mother wore a cream-colored suit that probably cost more than Maya's car. His father's watch was a Patek Philippe that Maya recognized from a magazine article about obscenely expensive timepieces. They all turned when Maya and Zoe entered. Junwoo's face flooded with relief. His parents' expressions remained carefully neutral. "Thank you for coming," Junwoo said, moving toward them but stopping short of touching, aware that every gesture was being observed and judged. "Please, sit down." Maya chose seats across from Junwoo's parents, positioning herself so that Zoe was partially shielded by her body. Junwoo sat at the head of the table, literally and figuratively caught between his old family and his new daughter. For a long moment, no one spoke. The silence stretched tight enough to snap. Finally, Junwoo's father cleared his throat. "We received the test results. The science is clear. Zoe is Junwoo's biological child." "We know," Maya said. "We've known for 10 years. The man's jaw tightened slightly. "We have brought you here to discuss how to handle this situation in a way that protects everyone involved." "By everyone, you mean your family's reputation," Maya said flatly. "Our family includes Zoe now," Junwoo interjected, his voice firm. "The test proves that. She's a Kang, whether we like it or not." His mother finally spoke, her English careful and cold. "She is Kang by blood only, not by name, not by culture, not by upbringing. She is American girl with American mother who knows nothing of our world." "Then maybe it's time I learned," Zoe said, her voice small but steady. Everyone's attention snapped to her. "I'm half Korean. That's half of who I am. Just because nobody told me about it doesn't mean it's not real." Junwoo's mother studied Zoe with an expression that was impossible to read. "You speak very boldly for a child." "You're talking about me like I'm not here," Zoe replied, channeling everything Maya had taught her about standing her ground. "That's rude. My mom taught me to speak up when people are being rude." Something flickered in the older woman's eyes, surprise, maybe, or reassessment. "Your mother taught you to challenge your elders?"
My mother taught me to respect people who deserve it, and to not let anyone make me feel like I'm less than I am, Zoe said, and Maya felt pride swell in her chest so fiercely it hurt. Junwoo was staring at his daughter like he was seeing her for the first time, really seeing her, understanding what Maya had built in the space he'd left empty. His father pulled a leather folder from the briefcase beside his chair. We have prepared a proposal. Financial support for Zoe's upbringing, education funding through university, a trust fund that will be available when she turns 21. In exchange, we ask for discretion. No media contact, no public acknowledgement of the connection to our family. A non-disclosure agreement preventing discussion of Junwoo's paternity. No, Maya said immediately. You have not heard the amount. I don't care about the amount. The answer is no. Junwoo's mother leaned forward. Ms. Richardson, we are offering financial security for your daughter, college education, graduate school if she wishes, enough money to ensure she never struggles. You would refuse this out of pride? I'd refuse it out of principle, Maya corrected. You want to pay us to pretend Zoe doesn't exist in any meaningful way? To take your money and disappear back to America and never complicate your perfect family narrative. But Zoe isn't a complication to be managed. She's a person, and she deserves more than hush money. What exactly do you want then? The question came out sharp, aggressive. Public acknowledgement? Family gatherings? Do you expect us to introduce this child as our granddaughter? Yes, Maya said simply. That's exactly what I expect, because that's what she is. Impossible, the woman snapped. The damage to our reputation, to Junwoo's position in the company, to our standing in society, is not Zoe's problem, Maya finished. You're asking a child to bear the consequences of your son's choices and your own obsession with appearances. That's not acceptable. Junwoo's father tried a different approach, his tone more measured. Ms. Richardson, please understand our position. We have built this family's name over 3 generations. We have responsibilities to our company, our employees, our shareholders. A scandal like this could affect thousands of people's livelihoods. Then maybe you should have raised a son who didn't run away from his responsibilities, Maya said, and Junwoo flinched but didn't argue. The past cannot be changed, the older man continued, but we can control how we move forward. The financial arrangement we're proposing is generous beyond measure. It would give Zoe every advantage in life. Except the advantage of knowing her father, Maya interrupted. Except the advantage of understanding half her heritage. Except the advantage of not growing up thinking she was something shameful that had to be hidden. Zoe had been quiet through this exchange, watching the adults argue about her future like it was a business negotiation. Now she spoke up, her voice cutting through the tension. What do you want me to do? Just pretend I don't have a father? Pretend I don't have grandparents? Take your money and disappear so you don't have to be embarrassed? Junwoo's mother met her granddaughter's gaze. It would be simpler for everyone. Simpler isn't the same as right, Zoe said, and Maya saw Junwoo's hand curl into a fist on the table. Mother, enough. His voice was quiet but carried an authority Maya hadn't heard before. Zoe is my daughter. The test proves it, but more than that, I know it. I knew it the moment I saw her, and I'm done pretending she doesn't exist. Junwoo, think about what you're saying. I have thought about it. For 10 years I've thought about it. Every time I saw a child around her age, every time I wondered what she looked like or who she was becoming. I made a mistake when I left Maya. I made an even bigger mistake by staying away. I'm not making another one by hiding Zoe now. His father's voice turned hard. If you publicly acknowledge this child, there will be consequences. The board of directors will question your judgment. Your position as CEO could be compromised. Business partners may reconsider their alliances. Our family will become the subject of gossip and speculation. Let them gossip, Junwoo said. Let them speculate. I'd rather be known as the man who stepped up and claimed his daughter than the man who hid her to protect his image. You're being emotional, his mother said dismissively. You've known this child for 3 days. You don't understand what you're risking. I understand perfectly. I'm risking my inheritance, my position, my standing in your eyes. And you know what? It's worth it. Because Zoe is worth it. The words landed in the room like an explosion. Zoe's eyes went wide, filling with tears she was clearly trying not to shed.
Maya felt her own throat close up, not expecting Junwoo to take this stand, not trusting it completely but desperately wanting to believe it was real. Junwoo's mother stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. "Then you are a fool. You would throw away everything your family built for a child you barely know, a child who will never truly fit into our world. Stop talking about her like she's not sitting right there," Junwoo said, his voice rising. "Stop acting like she's some burden I picked up instead of a person with feelings and thoughts and a right to exist without apologizing for it. She's 10 years old, Mother. She didn't ask to be born. She didn't choose to have me as a father. But she's here, and she's mine, and I will not hide her to make your life more comfortable." His mother's face had gone pale with fury. She spoke rapidly in Korean to her husband, her tone demanding, insistent. He responded more quietly, his words clearly meant to calm her down. The argument escalated until Junwoo cut in with something sharp in Korean that made both his parents fall silent. "What did you say?" Maya asked. Junwoo met her eyes. "I told them that if they can't accept Zoe as part of this family, then they're welcome to disown me. I'll resign from Cheonsung, give up my inheritance, and figure out a different path. But I won't choose them over my daughter, not again." The silence that followed felt like standing at the edge of a cliff. Maya watched Junwoo's parents process this ultimatum, saw the calculations happening behind their eyes as they weighed the cost of losing their son and heir against the cost of accepting a granddaughter who didn't fit their pristine image. Junwoo's father spoke first, his voice heavy with disappointment. "You would truly walk away from everything? From the company your grandfather built? From your responsibilities? From your family?" "You're asking me to walk away from Zoe," Junwoo said. "That's the choice you're giving me, so yes. If I have to choose, I choose her." "Junwoo, please," his mother tried, switching tactics, her voice almost pleading. "Be reasonable. We can support the child financially, ensure she's cared for, without destroying everything you've worked for." "I haven't worked for anything," Junwoo interrupted, and there was something raw and honest in his voice that Maya had never heard before. "I inherited a position because I was born into the right family. I've been CEO for 6 years, and I've done a decent job, but there are 100 people who could do it just as well. What I can't inherit or delegate or replace is being Zoe's father. That's something only I can do, and I already wasted 10 years not doing it." Zoe was openly crying now, silent tears streaming down her face as she watched her father fight for her in a way she'd probably never imagined possible. Maya wrapped an arm around her daughter's shoulders, holding her close. Junwoo's father looked at his son for a long moment, then at Zoe, then back to his son. "You're certain this is what you want?" "I've never been more certain of anything in my life." The older man sighed deeply, the sound of a parent watching their child make a choice they can't understand but can't prevent. "Then we will need time to discuss this privately, to understand what acknowledging her publicly will mean for the family, the company, our position in society." "I don't need your permission," Junwoo said quietly. "I'm telling you out of respect, not asking for approval. Zoe is my daughter. I'm going to act like it, starting now. You can either accept that and be part of her life, or you can choose not to. But I'm done hiding her." His mother made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. "You have no idea what you're doing. The media will destroy you. Our business rivals will use this against us." "Everything your grandfather built will survive or it won't," Junwoo said. "But at least I'll be able to look my daughter in the eye and tell her I chose her. That has to count for something." Junwoo's father stood, his movements slow and deliberate. "We will contact you in 3 days with our decision. Until then, we will not discuss this matter further. Come, Sunja." His mother hesitated, her gaze lingering on Zoe with an expression Maya couldn't quite decipher. Then she collected her purse and followed her husband toward the door. At the threshold, she paused and turned back. "The child looks like you did at that age," she said to Junwoo, her voice softer than it had been all evening. "Your eyes, especially. Your father's mother had those same eyes." Then she was gone, leaving the three of them alone in the private dining room with its untouched place settings and the weight of everything that had just happened pressing down like atmospheric pressure. Junwoo slumped in his chair, his hands covering his face. I'm sorry you had to see that. I'm sorry they were so... Don't apologize for them, Maya said. You don't get credit for other people's behavior, only your own. He lowered his hands, his eyes red-rimmed but dry. I meant what I said. About choosing Zoe. About not hiding her. I know you don't trust me yet, and I understand why, but I need you to know I'm serious. Words are easy, Maya said, though her tone was gentler than her words. Following through is hard, especially when your family spends the next 3 days trying to talk you out of it. They won't change my mind. We'll see. Zoe had been silent through this exchange, her face buried against Maya's shoulder. Now she lifted her head and looked at Junwoo with eyes that were too old, too knowing, too familiar with disappointment to fully believe in hope. Did you mean it? She asked, her voice small and fragile. That you'd give up everything for me? Junwoo got up from his chair and knelt beside Zoe's, bringing himself to her level the way he'd done in the park yesterday. I already gave up 10 years with you. That's what I lost by choosing wrong the first time. I'm not making that mistake again. So yes, I meant it. Every word. But what if your parents really disown you? What if you lose your job and your money and everything? Then I'll figure it out, Junwoo said simply. I have a degree from Northwestern. I'm fluent in 3 languages. I know how to work. I'll be fine. What I can't be is a man who chose money and reputation over his own child. I couldn't live with myself if I did that twice. Zoe studied him for a long moment, searching his face for truth or lies or whatever 10-year-olds looked for when deciding whether to trust adults who'd failed them before. You really think your parents might come around? I don't know, Junwoo admitted. My mother is stubborn and my father is practical. They'll weigh the costs and benefits, try to find a way to make this work that protects the family image. But even if they don't, even if they choose to cut me off completely, that doesn't change what I owe you. What I want to try to build with you, if you'll let me. What do you want? Zoe asked. Like, actually? Not what you think you should want or what would make everyone happy. What do you want? Junwoo took a shaky breath. I want to know you. I want to understand who you are, what makes you laugh, what scares you, what you dream about. I want to be the person you call when something good happens or something bad happens or when you just need someone to listen. I want to be at your middle school graduation and your high school graduation and whatever comes after that. I want to stop being the answer to, where's your father, and start being just your father. That's a lot, Zoe said, but there was something cautiously hopeful in her voice. I know, and I know I can't make up for 10 years in a few days or even a few months, but if you're willing to let me try, I promise I'll show up. Not perfectly, because I'm going to mess this up sometimes, but consistently. That's the best I can offer. Zoe looked at Maya. What do you think, Mom? Maya chose her words carefully. I think your father is saying the right things, and I think he seems to mean them. But I also think we need to take this slow, protect your heart, and see if his actions match his words over time. We don't have to decide everything tonight. But we're going home tomorrow, Zoe pointed out. Our flight's at 3. Junwoo looked stricken. Already? I thought, I didn't realize. We have lives back in Atlanta, Maya said firmly. I have a job to get back to. Zoe has school. We can't just stay in Seoul indefinitely while your family decides whether to acknowledge her. Can I come visit? Junwoo asked, the question directed at Zoe, but his eyes on Maya, asking permission. To Atlanta? I could come in a few weeks, spend time with Zoe, start trying to build something real. Maya wanted to say no, wanted to protect her daughter from the possibility of broken promises and canceled flights and all the ways Junwoo could still let her down. But Zoe was looking at her with such hope, such desperate want for this chance at having a father, that Maya couldn't be the one to close that door. If you come, you commit to a real visit, not a day, not a drive-by. At least a week, spending actual time with Zoe, doing normal things, showing her what it would be like to have you in her life. I'll take a whole month if I can, Junwoo said immediately. I'll work remotely. I'll figure it out, whatever it takes. And if your parents threaten to fire you for it? His jaw set in a way that reminded Maya painfully of the young man she'd fallen in love with in Chicago, before fear and family expectations had turned him into someone who ran.
Then they fire me. Zoe is more important. We'll see, Maya said again, because she wasn't ready to believe completely, wasn't ready to let down the walls she'd spent 11 years building to protect herself and her daughter from exactly this kind of hope. But Zoe was smiling for the first time since they'd sat down at this table, and that was worth something. The dinner they'd ordered arrived then, delivered by silent staff who set down plates of food none of them had any appetite for. They picked at Korean barbecue and banchan, making awkward small talk about inconsequential things, while the real conversation hung in the air between them like smoke. Junwoo asked Zoe about school, about her favorite subjects, about what she wanted to be when she grew up. Zoe told him about her love of science, about the solar system project she'd built last semester, about how she wanted to be an engineer or maybe an astronaut. Junwoo listened with the intensity of someone trying to memorize every detail, asking follow-up questions that proved he was actually paying attention. Maya watched this tentative connection forming and felt her heart do complicated things in her chest. Grief for all the years this could have been happening but didn't, hope that maybe it wasn't too late, fear that she was setting Zoe up for heartbreak. They left the peninsula around 9, Junwoo walking them to the car he'd arranged. Before they got in, Zoe surprised everyone by hugging him again, longer this time, less awkward. "Thank you for fighting for me," she whispered against his shoulder. Junwoo's arms tightened around her. "Thank you for giving me the chance. I won't waste it." In the car back to their hotel, Zoe was quiet but not in the heavy way of earlier. This was thoughtful quiet, processing quiet. "He really did it," she said finally. "He really stood up to his parents." "He did," Maya agreed. "Do you think he'll actually come to Atlanta?" "I think he wants to. Whether he follows through, that's the part we'll have to wait and see." "But it's something, right? It's more than we had before." Maya pulled her daughter close. "Yeah, baby, it's something." That night, Maya helped Zoe pack their suitcases for the flight home, folding clothes and tucking away the ceramic turtle Junwoo had bought and the few Korean snacks they'd collected. Tomorrow, they'd leave Seoul and this entire surreal situation behind, returning to the normal rhythms of Atlanta life. But something had shifted. Zoe had met her father. She'd stood in front of his family and refused to be invisible. She'd heard him choose her out loud, in a way that couldn't be taken back. Whatever happened next, whether Junwoo kept his promises or whether this all fell apart under the pressure of distance and family politics, Zoe would always have this. The proof that she'd been brave enough to ask for what she deserved, and Maya would have the satisfaction of knowing she'd given her daughter that chance, even though it terrified her, even though it meant trusting a man who'd already proven he could run. They'd come to Seoul for answers. They'd gotten some, though not all of them, and not in the neat, tidy way Maya had hoped, but they'd also gotten something unexpected, a father who'd finally stopped running. Whether he kept walking forward remained to be seen. The flight back to Atlanta felt longer than the one to Seoul, stretched thin by exhaustion and the strange emotional vertigo of returning to normal life after everything had been turned upside down. Zoe slept through most of it, her head against Maya's shoulder, the ceramic turtle clutched in one hand even in sleep. Maya stayed awake, watching movies she didn't absorb and thinking about the text message that had arrived while they were boarding. It was from Junwoo. "Safe flight. I'll call you when you land." I meant everything I said. She hadn't responded. Didn't know what to say that wouldn't sound either too hopeful or too cynical. So she just put the phone away and tried not to think about what would happen when they got home, when the adrenaline wore off and real life reasserted itself, and Junwoo's promises had to survive the test of an ocean between them. They landed at Hartsfield-Jackson just after 6 on Sunday evening, both of them rumpled and jet-lagged, and ready to sleep for a week. Maya's sister Rachel was waiting at baggage claim, her face lighting up when she spotted them. "There are my world travelers," Rachel said, pulling them both into a hug that smelled like her familiar perfume and home. "How was it? Did he show up? Did his family freak out? Tell me everything." "Can we tell you in the car?" Maya asked, suddenly overwhelmed by the noise and crowd and the feeling of being too raw for public spaces. "I need to sit down somewhere that isn't moving." Rachel took one look at Maya's face and switched into protective older sister mode. "Of course. Let's get you home. Zoe, honey, you look exhausted." "I am," Zoe admitted, holding Rachel's hand as they headed toward the parking deck. "But it was good.
I think. I'm still figuring out if it was good. In Rachel's car, Maya gave her the condensed version while Zoe dozed in the back seat. The confrontation in the lobby, the DNA test, Junwoo's stand against his parents, the promise to come to Atlanta. Rachel listened without interrupting, her hands tight on the steering wheel, her expression cycling through shock and anger and cautious hope. So he actually stood up to them, Rachel said when Maya finished. After 11 years of radio silence, he actually chose Zoe. He said he did. Whether he follows through is another question. You think he won't? I think he wants to, Maya said carefully. I think he genuinely believes he means it right now. But wanting to be a father and actually doing the work are very different things. And when the reality sets in, the time commitment, the emotional labor, the fact that Zoe deserves consistency, not just enthusiasm, I don't know if he'll stick with it. Rachel glanced in the rearview mirror at Zoe's sleeping form. What does she think? She wants to believe him. She's 10 years old and she finally got to hear her father say she matters more than his money and reputation. Of course she wants to believe him. And if he lets her down? Maya's throat tightened. Then I'll pick up the pieces like I always do, but at least she'll know she tried. At least she won't spend the rest of her life wondering what if. They pulled up to Maya's house in East Atlanta just after 7, the small brick ranch looking exactly the same as when they'd left, which felt surreal given how much had changed. Rachel helped them carry the suitcases inside, made sure they had food in the fridge, and extracted a promise from Maya to call her tomorrow. You did good, sis, Rachel said, hugging Maya at the door. Whatever happens next, you gave Zoe something huge. Don't forget that. After Rachel left, Maya and Zoe moved through the house like ghosts, unpacking just enough to function, ordering pizza they were too tired to really taste. Zoe showered and put on her own pajamas in her own room, and Maya felt herself starting to believe they were actually home, that Seoul and the Kong family and all of it had really happened. They were eating pizza on the couch, halfway through a movie neither was paying attention to, when Maya's phone rang. Junwoo's name on the screen made her stomach flip. Zoe sat up immediately. Is that him? Maya nodded and answered on speaker. We made it home. I've been checking flight trackers all day, Junwoo's voice came through clear despite the distance. I wanted to make sure you landed safely. How are you both doing? Tired, Maya said. Jet-lagged, still processing. Zoe, are you there? I'm here, Zoe said, suddenly shy in a way she hadn't been in person. How does it feel to be home? Weird. Like Seoul was a dream or something, except I have the turtle you gave me, so I know it was real. Junwoo's laugh sounded slightly choked. It was real. All of it. And I want you to know I've already started making arrangements to come visit. I'm looking at flights for 3 weeks from now. Would that work? I'd stay for 2 weeks if that's okay with your mom. Maya felt Zoe's hopeful eyes on her. 2 weeks is a long time. You're sure you can take that much time away from work? I've already talked to my assistant about setting up a temporary remote office. I can handle most things via video conference, and anything truly urgent can wait or be delegated. This is more important. What about your parents? Have you heard from them? A pause. Not yet, but I don't need their permission to visit my daughter. Junwoo, be realistic. If they cut you off, if they fire you from Cheongsong, can you actually afford to fly back and forth to Atlanta? To commit to being part of Zoe's life long term? I have savings. I have investments that are mine independently from the company. Even if my parents disown me completely, I'll be fine. Not billionaire fine, but comfortable enough to support myself and contribute to Zoe's expenses. I told you we don't need your money. I know, but I want to contribute. Not as payment or obligation, but because that's what parents do. They show up and they help, and they invest in their children's lives. Please let me do that. Maya looked at Zoe, who was practically vibrating with hope. Okay, 3 weeks from now. But Junwoo, if you book that ticket, you better be on that plane, because if you promise to come and then cancel last minute, I will make sure you never get another chance. Understand? I understand, and I will be there. I promise. After they hung up, Zoe threw her arms around Maya so suddenly they both almost fell off the couch. He's really coming. He's going to visit us.
Maybe, Maya cautioned, even as she hugged her daughter back. He said he would. But people say a lot of things, baby. We need to protect ourselves until he proves he means it. But you think he might actually come, right? You think he might actually be different now? Maya thought about Junwoo standing up to his parents, choosing Zoe over his inheritance, the raw emotion in his voice when he talked about wanting to know his daughter. I think he wants to be different, and I think Seoul changed something for him, seeing you face to face, having to choose publicly instead of hiding, but wanting and doing are different things. I know, Zoe said, settling back against the couch cushions, but it's nice to hope, isn't it? Just for a little while? Yeah, baby, Maya said, pulling her close. It is nice to hope. The 3 weeks that followed fell into a strange rhythm of anticipation and normal life. Maya went back to work, sitting through meetings about supply chain logistics and quarterly projections while her mind wandered to Seoul and DNA tests and the father who might or might not show up. Zoe went back to school, where she told her best friend about the trip, but swore her to secrecy. Not ready yet for the whole class to know about the dramatic father reveal. Junwoo called every 3 days, talking to Zoe for an hour each time about her school projects, her soccer practice, the book series she was reading. He asked questions like he was studying for a test on her life, taking notes. Maya could hear him typing in the background. He sent Zoe a Korean language learning app subscription and a children's book written in both English and Korean. He asked Maya about her work, about Atlanta, about what Zoe's schedule looked like so he could plan his visit around her routine. 2 weeks before his planned arrival, Junwoo video called at his usual time. But his face was drawn, his eyes tired in a way that had nothing to do with time zones. What's wrong? Maya asked immediately, dread settling in her stomach. My parents made their decision. I met with them today. Zoe had been coloring at the kitchen table, but she abandoned her markers immediately, climbing into the chair next to Maya so she could see the screen. What did they say? Junwoo took a breath. They're willing to acknowledge you as my daughter, publicly, but there are conditions. Of course there are, Maya said. They want control over how the information is released. A carefully crafted statement through the company's PR department. They want to frame it as a private family matter that I'm handling responsibly, not a scandal that was exposed against my will. That's actually not terrible, Maya admitted grudgingly. There's more. They want to meet Zoe again, properly this time. Not in a conference room or a hotel, but at their home. They want the chance to get to know her before any public announcement. Why the change of heart? Maya asked suspiciously. Junwoo's smile was bitter. Because the story leaked anyway. Someone from the office sold details to a tabloid. It's hitting Korean media tomorrow. My parents realized they could either control the narrative or be controlled by it. They chose control. So they're not acknowledging Zoe because it's the right thing to do. They're doing it because they have no choice. Does it matter? Junwoo asked quietly. If the result is that Zoe gets acknowledged as part of the family, does it matter what motivated them? Maya looked at Zoe, whose face was impossible to read. What do you think, baby? Do you want to meet them again, knowing they're only doing it because they got forced into it? Zoe was quiet for a long moment. Will you be there? She asked Junwoo. Every second. I won't leave you alone with them. And will they be mean to me again, like at the hotel? Junwoo's jaw tightened. If they are, we leave immediately. I've already told them that. They get one chance to treat you with respect. If they blow it, they don't get another. Okay? Zoe said finally. I'll meet them, but not in Korea. I don't want to fly back there. If they want to meet me, they can come here. Maya felt a surge of pride at her daughter's boundary setting. You heard her. They want to meet Zoe on their terms. They can make the trip to Atlanta. Junwoo smiled for the first time since the call started. I'll tell them. Though I should warn you, my mother is not going to be happy about flying to America. Then she can stay home, Maya said flatly. Zoe doesn't need grandparents who resent her existence. She needs people who actually want to know her. Agreed. Junwoo paused, then asked hesitantly, Zoe, can I ask you something? Okay. When I come visit next week, would it be all right if I took you to get your Korean name registered? It doesn't have to replace your American name. You'd still be Zoe Richardson,
But in Korean culture, having a Korean name is important. It connects you to your heritage, and I'd like to give you that if you want it. Zoe's eyes went wide. I'd have two names? You'd have the name your mother gave you, which is beautiful and perfect, and you'd have a Korean name that connects you to the Kang family and to Korean culture. Lots of Korean Americans have both. What would my Korean name be? Junwoo smiled softly. I was thinking Kang Ji Woo. Ji means wisdom and Woo means universe. Wisdom of the universe. But we can choose something else if you'd prefer. I want you to be part of the decision. Zoe looked at Maya. What do you think, Mom? Maya's throat was tight. She'd spent 10 years raising Zoe as purely American because that's all she had access to, all she could give her daughter without Junwoo's involvement. Now here he was, offering to fill in that missing piece, to give Zoe the Korean identity she'd been denied. I think it's beautiful, Maya said honestly. And I think it's your choice, baby. If you want a Korean name, I support that completely. Can I think about it? Of course, Junwoo said. Take all the time you need. I just wanted to offer. After they hung up, Zoe was unusually quiet, turning the ceramic turtle over and over in her hands. Maya sat beside her at the kitchen table, waiting. Do you think he's really changed? Zoe asked finally. Or is he just doing all this because he got caught and has to deal with me now? It was such a perceptive question, so much older than 10, that Maya's heart broke a little. I think both things can be true. I think he got forced into facing what he'd done, but I also think actually meeting you changed something for him. He sees you as a real person now, not just an abstract problem, and that's making him want to be better. But will it last? When things get hard, or when his parents pressure him, or when it's just easier to ignore me again? I don't know, baby. I wish I could promise you it will, but I can't. All I can tell you is what I see right now, which is a man who seems genuinely committed to trying. Whether that commitment survives the long haul, we'll have to wait and see. I'm scared to get excited, Zoe admitted. Because what if I let myself believe he's going to be a real dad, and then he disappears again? Maya pulled Zoe into her lap, even though she was getting too big for it, holding her daughter the way she had when Zoe was small enough to believe her mother could protect her from everything. Then you'll be sad and angry and hurt, and I'll be here to help you through it. But Zoe, listen to me. You're allowed to hope. You're allowed to want this and get excited about it and imagine what it could be like. Don't protect yourself so much that you miss out on the possibility of something good. What if it hurts? Then it hurts, and we deal with it together, but at least you won't spend your whole life wondering what if. The week before Junwoo's arrival passed in a blur of preparation that felt absurd and necessary all at once. Maya cleaned the house top to bottom, even though Junwoo wasn't staying with them. He'd booked a hotel nearby. Zoe made a list of places she wanted to show him, activities she thought they could do together. Maya's mother called 3 times with increasingly pointed questions about this man who abandoned you, and whether Maya was sure this was a good idea. I'm not sure of anything, Mama, Maya had said on the 3rd call. But Zoe deserves the chance to know her father, so we're taking the risk. And if he breaks that baby's heart, then I'll break his face, Maya had said, only half joking. The night before Junwoo's flight, he called one more time. I'm at the airport, boarding in an hour. I just wanted to say, he paused. I'm nervous. I don't know how to do this. How to be a father. What if I mess it up? You probably will, Maya said honestly. But that's okay. Parenting is mostly just showing up and trying your best and apologizing when you screw up. Nobody expects you to be perfect. Zoe might. Zoe expects you to be present. Everything else you'll figure out together. Maya. Oh, his voice caught. Thank you for bringing her to Seoul, for giving me this chance. I know I don't deserve it. You're right, you don't, but Zoe does, so don't thank me. Just show up tomorrow and do the work. I will, I promise. Junwoo's flight landed at 11 the next morning. Maya had taken the day off work and pulled Zoe out of school, ignoring the raised eyebrow from the attendant secretary who'd seen Zoe miss exactly 3 days in the past 2 years. They got to the airport an hour early and waited at the international arrivals area, Zoe bouncing on her toes with nervous energy. What if he changed his mind? Zoe asked for the fourth time. What if he got on the plane and then realized he didn't want to do this and turned around? Then we go home and we move on, Maya said, though she was scanning the arrivals board obsessively, watching Junwoo's flight status. On time, landed, passengers deplaning, people started trickling out of the international terminal, businessmen in suits, families pushing overloaded luggage carts, college students with backpacks. Maya watched each face, her heart rate climbing. And then there he was.
Junwoo emerged through the doors looking exhausted and rumpled from the 15-hour flight, his carry-on slung over one shoulder, his eyes searching the crowd. When he spotted them, his entire face transformed, relief and joy, and something that looked almost like disbelief, as if he'd half convinced himself this wouldn't really happen. Zoe grabbed Maya's hand, suddenly shy. Junwoo crossed the distance between them in long strides, and then he was kneeling in front of Zoe right there in the middle of the crowded terminal, his eyes level with hers. "Hi," he said, his voice rough. "I made it." "You made it," Zoe echoed, and then she was hugging him and Junwoo's arms came around her like he was afraid she might disappear if he didn't hold on tight enough. Maya watched her daughter embrace her father in the Atlanta airport and felt something fundamental shift inside her chest. Not forgiveness exactly, but maybe the beginning of willingness to believe this might actually work. They collected Junwoo's luggage and drove to his hotel so he could check in and shower. He'd booked a suite at a Marriott near Maya's house, close enough to be accessible, but not so close it felt intrusive. While he cleaned up, Maya and Zoe waited in the hotel restaurant, picking at French fries neither of them wanted. "He really came," Zoe kept saying. "He actually got on the plane." "He did," Maya agreed. "What do we do now?" "Now we take it one day at a time and see what happens." Junwoo reappeared 20 minutes later looking more human, his hair still damp from the shower, wearing jeans and a t-shirt that made him look younger and less intimidating than the CEO who'd stood frozen in that Seoul lobby. He slid into the booth next to Zoe, leaving appropriate space between them. "So," he said, smiling at his daughter, "you promised to show me Atlanta. Where do we start?" They spent the afternoon being tourists in Maya's own city. Zoe took Junwoo to the Georgia Aquarium, explaining facts about beluga whales and hammerhead sharks with the confidence of a kid who'd been there a dozen times. They walked through Centennial Olympic Park, Zoe showing him the fountain where she and Maya came every summer. They got ice cream from a place near Ponce City Market, Junwoo watching in fascination as Zoe ordered butter pecan without hesitation. "You know exactly what you want," he observed. "Mom says it's good to know what you like and not apologize for it," Zoe said, licking her cone. Junwoo glanced at Maya. "Your mom is very wise." That evening, Junwoo came to their house for dinner, the first time he'd been inside the home where his daughter had grown up. Maya watched him take in the details, the photos of Zoe at every age lining the hallway, the science fair ribbons on the refrigerator, the height marks on the kitchen door frame documenting 10 years of growth he'd missed. "You've built a beautiful life here," he said quietly. "We've built a beautiful life," Maya corrected. "Zoe and me together." "I know, He touched the door frame where the marks were. "I missed all of this. Every inch of her growing up." "You did," Maya said, refusing to soften the truth. "And you can't get it back. But you're here now. That's something." They ordered Chinese takeout and ate at Maya's small kitchen table, Zoe chattering about her school and her friends and the soccer team she'd joined this year. Junwoo listened like he was taking mental notes, asking questions that proved he was actually paying attention to the answers. After dinner, Zoe showed Junwoo her room, the purple walls she'd picked out herself, the bookshelf overflowing with novels and science books, the desk where she did homework. On her nightstand was the ceramic turtle from Seoul and a framed photo of Maya and Zoe at Disney World last year. "No pictures of me," Junwoo said, his voice carefully neutral. "I only had one," Zoe admitted. "The one Mom kept in the lockbox. But it wasn't like you were part of my life, so it seemed weird to have it out." "That makes sense. Maybe, if things go well while I'm here, maybe we could take some new pictures, start building some memories?" Zoe considered this. "Yeah, I'd like that." Later,
After Junwoo had left and Zoe was in bed, Maya sat on her porch with a glass of wine and tried to process the surreal reality of the day. Junwoo Kang, the man who'd abandoned her pregnant in Chicago, had just eaten dinner at her kitchen table and tucked his daughter in for the first time in her life. Her phone buzzed. A text from Junwoo. "Thank you for today, for letting me into your home, into Zoe's world. I know how much trust that took." Maya stared at the message for a long time before responding. "Don't thank me yet. You've been here one day. Let's see if you're still showing up on day 14. His response came immediately. "I will be. Count on it." The next 13 days proved him right in ways that both reassured Maya and terrified her. Junwoo showed up every single day, sometimes for a few hours, sometimes for the whole day. He came to Zoe's soccer practice and cheered from the sidelines, learning the rules of the game in real time. He helped her with her math homework, approaching her algebra problems with the same methodical focus he probably used in boardrooms. He took her to get her Korean name officially registered at the Korean consulate, standing beside her as she signed the paperwork that made her Kang Ji-woo as well as Zoe Richardson. He met Maya's mother and sister, enduring their protective skepticism with grace and honest acknowledgement of his failures. He visited Zoe's school for Career Day, talking about technology and business, but mostly answering questions about Korea and what it was like to grow up in Seoul. He learned to make Zoe's favorite breakfast, blueberry pancakes, from scratch, and started showing up on Saturday mornings to cook for both of them. He also messed up. He missed signals when Zoe needed space, pushed too hard when she was tired, asked questions that touched on sensitive territory without realizing it. But he apologized each time, adjusted, learned. He didn't pretend to know what he was doing. He just kept showing up and trying. On the 10th day of his visit, they were at a park watching Zoe play on the swings when Junwoo said quietly, "My parents want to come next month to meet Zoe properly. Are you okay with that?" Maya watched her daughter swing higher and higher, fearless. "Is Zoe okay with it?" She said yes when I asked her yesterday, but I wanted to check with you. They're going to criticize everything, the house, the neighborhood, my parenting, the fact that Zoe doesn't speak Korean. Let them try, Junwoo said, and there was steel in his voice. I've already told them the rules. They treat Zoe with respect or they go straight back to Seoul. No negotiation. And if they don't listen, then they lose access to their granddaughter and to me. I'm not bluffing this time, Maya. I chose Zoe. I'm not unchoosing her because my parents can't adjust their worldview. Maya studied his profile, looking for cracks or uncertainty. She didn't find any. You really mean that? I really mean that. What about Cheon Sung? Have they tried to force you out? Junwoo's smile was grim. They've tried. The board called for a vote of no confidence. It failed. Turns out I'm better at my job than my parents gave me credit for, and the company's stock price has gone up 20% since I took over. The board cares more about profits than my personal life. So you're staying as CEO? For now. But I've also started exploring other options. Because if staying at Cheon Sung means compromising my commitment to Zoe, I'll walk away. The job isn't worth losing my daughter over. That night was Junwoo's last night in Atlanta. He'd extended his 2 weeks to 14 days, but he had responsibilities in Seoul that couldn't be delayed any longer. They had dinner at Maya's house again, just the three of them, grilling burgers in the backyard and eating at the picnic table as the sun set. Zoe had been quiet all day, the looming goodbye weighing on her. After dinner, she sat pressed against Junwoo's side, holding his hand like she could keep him there through force of will. I don't want you to go, she said finally, her voice small. I don't want to go either, Junwoo said honestly. But I have to, just for a little while. I'll be back in 6 weeks. And we'll video call every 3 days, just like before. It's not the same. No, it's not. But it's what we have right now, and we're going to make it work. What if you get back to Seoul and you forget about me again? What if it's easier to just go back to your old life? Junwoo pulled Zoe around to face him, his hands on her shoulders. Zoe, look at me. I could never forget you. You're my daughter. You're part of me. And yes, going back to Seoul means going back to work and dealing with my parents and all the complicated parts of my life there. But none of that changes what you mean to me. None of that makes you less important. How do I know that? Because I'm going to show you. Every 3 days when I call. Every 6 weeks when I fly back here.
Every decision I make that puts you first. You'll know because I'll prove it, over and over, until you believe it. Zoe's eyes filled with tears. I want to believe it now. Then believe it, Junwoo said gently.
Trust that I mean what I'm saying, and if I mess up, if I let you down, call me on it. Don't let me get away with being a bad father. Demand better from me.
Okay,
Zoe whispered. The next morning, Maya drove Junwoo back to the airport. Zoe had insisted on coming even though it was a school day, and Maya had let her because some things mattered more than perfect attendance. They walked Junwoo to the security line, the three of them standing awkwardly in the bustling terminal. Junwoo knelt down one more time, pulling Zoe into a hug that lasted long enough for other travelers to have to walk around them. I love you, he said into her hair. I know I don't have the right to say that yet. I know I haven't earned it, but it's true. I love you, Kang Jiwoo, and I'm so proud to be your father. Zoe was crying openly now. I love you too, Dad. It was the first time she'd called him that. Junwoo's face crumpled and he held her tighter, and Maya had to look away because the intimacy of the moment felt too big for public space. When they finally pulled apart, Junwoo stood and faced Maya. Thank you doesn't even come close to covering it, but thank you for raising her to be so brave and brilliant, for bringing her to Seoul, for letting me back into her life, for taking a chance on me when I didn't deserve it. Don't waste it, Maya said, her voice rough. Don't make me regret this. I won't. I swear to you, I won't. He hugged Zoe one more time, then walked through security without looking back, because if he had, he probably wouldn't have been able to keep walking. In the car on the way home, Zoe cried against Maya's shoulder in the parking deck, all the emotion of the past 2 weeks finally breaking free. Maya held her and let her cry, stroking her hair and murmuring reassurance that felt hollow even as she said it. What if he doesn't come back? Zoe sobbed. Then we survive it, Maya said, like we always do. But baby, I think he will. I think he's finally ready to be your father. You really think so? Maya thought about Junwoo cooking pancakes in her kitchen, cheering at soccer practice, carefully helping Zoe with homework, standing up to his parents, extending his trip, planning the next visit before this one even ended. She thought about the way he looked at Zoe, like she was the most precious thing in his world, like he couldn't quite believe she was real and his. Yeah, Maya said, I really think so. Junwoo kept his promise. 3 days after he landed in Seoul, he video called right on schedule, his face filling Zoe's laptop screen with the kind of exhausted relief that comes from successfully navigating difficult territory. He'd arrived back to a media firestorm, Korean tabloids running stories about the secret daughter, business reporters questioning his judgment, social media dissecting every detail of Zoe's existence that people could find. But he'd faced it head-on with a carefully worded statement that Maya had to admit was perfect in its simplicity. I have a daughter. Her name is Zoe. I regret the years I wasn't present in her life, and I'm committed to being the father she deserves going forward. This is a private family matter, and I ask for respect as we navigate it together. How bad is it really? Maya asked during one of those calls, after Zoe had gone to get a snack and left them alone on the screen. Junwoo ran a hand through his hair. Bad enough that my mother hasn't spoken to me in 4 days. Good enough that the company's stock barely dipped, and the board seems willing to let it blow over. The Korean public is actually being surprisingly sympathetic. There's this narrative building about me being a young man who made a mistake and is now stepping up to correct it. It helps that you never asked for money or went to the press. People respect that. I didn't do it for respect. I did it because Zoe deserved better than being a tabloid story. I know, but it's working in our favor. My parents are seeing that acknowledging Zoe isn't the disaster they feared. If anything, handling it with honesty and accountability is making me look more human, more relatable. The CEO who's also a father trying to make amends. Just don't turn her into a PR strategy, Maya warned. She's not a redemption story for your image. She's a real kid who needs a real father. I know that. I do. But I'd be lying if I said the positive spin isn't making things easier with my family. My mother actually agreed to come to Atlanta next month. She's still not happy about it, but she's coming. The 6 weeks until that visit passed in a rhythm that started to feel almost normal.
Junwoo called every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. Atlanta time, which meant he was calling at 8 in the morning Seoul time before his workday started. He talked to Zoe about her day, helped her practice Korean phrases, listened to her read from the bilingual books he'd sent. He video called into her soccer game when she scored her first goal of the season, his cheers delayed by the internet connection but no less genuine. He remembered her science project deadline and called to ask how it went. He sent a care package with Korean snacks and a hanbok, a traditional dress, in Zoe's size for when she wanted to connect with that part of her heritage. Maya watched this consistency with cautious hope that slowly, grudgingly, transformed into something that looked like trust. He wasn't perfect. He forgot about daylight savings time once and called an hour late, sending Zoe into a panic that he'd forgotten entirely until he appeared on screen apologizing profusely. He sometimes asked questions that were too personal, too fast, not yet calibrated to what Zoe was ready to share. But he showed up. He adjusted when Maya or Zoe gave feedback. He kept his promises. The day before his parents were scheduled to arrive, Junwoo called early, his face tense with anxiety. "I need to prepare you for what's coming. My mother has agreed to be civil, but civil for her means formal and distant. My father is easier, he's pragmatic, and he sees this as a problem to be solved. But my mother takes everything personally. She's going to judge your home, your parenting, probably your life choices. I need you to know that going in." "I'm not trying to impress your mother," Maya said. "I'm giving her the opportunity to know her granddaughter. If she wastes that opportunity being judgmental, that's on her." "I know. I just don't want you to be blindsided by how she can be. Junwoo, I raised a child alone for 10 years while building a career and buying a house. I survived your abandonment and everything that came after. I think I can handle your mother's disapproval." His smile was rueful. "You're stronger than all of us. I'm starting to realize that." Junwoo's parents arrived on a Thursday afternoon, chauffeured from the airport in a black car that looked absurdly out of place on Maya's modest street. Junwoo had flown in the day before and spent the morning helping Maya and Zoe prepare, cleaning the house one more time, cooking a meal that balanced American and Korean dishes, setting up the dining room to seat 6 with Maya's sister Rachel and her husband there for moral support and witnesses. When the doorbell rang, Zoe grabbed Maya's hand with a grip that threatened to cut off circulation. Junwoo opened the door to his parents, and Maya watched the older couple take in the small brick house with the tidy yard and the American flag on the porch, their faces carefully neutral. Junwoo's mother wore a designer suit that probably cost more than Maya's monthly mortgage. His father carried a gift bag that he handed to Junwoo without a word. They stepped inside with the hesitant caution of people entering foreign and possibly hostile territory. "Mother, father, this is Maya's home," Junwoo said in English, establishing the language for the visit. "Maya, you remember my parents, Mr. and Mrs. Kang." "Welcome," Maya said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Thank you for making the trip, Mrs." Kang's eyes swept the living room. The mismatched furniture Maya had accumulated over the years, the family photos on every surface, the bookshelf overflowing with Zoe's collection. Her expression gave nothing away. "And this is Zoe," Junwoo said, his hand on his daughter's shoulder. "Zoe, say hello to your grandparents." Zoe had practiced this moment with Maya a dozen times. She stepped forward and bowed slightly, the way Junwoo had taught her during their video calls. "Hello, grandmother. Hello, grandfather. Thank you for coming to meet me." Something flickered in Mrs. Kang's expression. Surprise, maybe, that this American child knew to bow, knew the proper respectful greeting. Mr. Kang's face softened visibly. "You have been learning Korean culture," he said, his English heavily accented but clear. "Dad's been teaching me," Zoe said. "I'm not very good yet, but I'm trying." The use of dad wasn't lost on anyone in the room. Mrs. Kang's lips thinned. Mr. Kang nodded approvingly. They moved to the dining room where Maya had set out the meal. Bulgogi and japchae alongside roasted chicken and mashed potatoes, banchan and cornbread, a fusion that represented both halves of Zoe's heritage. Rachel and her husband Tom provided buffer conversation, asking polite questions about Seoul and the flight, and carefully avoiding anything controversial. Mrs. Kang ate sparingly, her posture perfect, Her attention focused on Zoe with an intensity that was hard to read. Mr. Kang asked Zoe about school, about her grades, about what subjects she enjoyed. When Zoe mentioned loving science and math, he perked up. Junwoo was the same at your age, always taking things apart to see how they worked. Very curious mind. I like building things, Zoe said. Mom got me a robotics kit for my birthday, and I've been making different robots. Right now I'm working on one that can navigate around obstacles. You enjoy engineering? I think so.
I want to be an aerospace engineer when I grow up. I want to help design spacecraft. Mr. Kang looked at Junwoo with something that might have been approval. She has the Kang mind. Very good. Mrs. Kang finally spoke, her voice crisp. What language do you speak at home? English, Maya said before Zoe could answer. Zoe's first language is English. She's learning Korean now, but slowly. That's the reality of growing up in America. She should be fluent in Korean. It is half of who she is. She's learning, Junwoo interjected, and she's doing well. But Maya's right. Zoe grew up here. English is her primary language. If she had grown up in Seoul, Mrs. Kang began. But she didn't, Junwoo said firmly. She grew up here with her mother because I wasn't there. That's not Maya's failing or Zoe's, that's mine. And we're working with the reality we have, not the one we wish existed. The table went quiet. Rachel caught Maya's eye with a look that said, Your baby daddy just stood up for you to his mother. Maya had to suppress an inappropriate urge to laugh. Mr. Kang cleared his throat. Junwoo tells us you work in supply chain management. Important field. Global economy depends on efficient logistics. Maya recognized the peace offering and took it. I work for a company that handles distribution for several major retailers. It's challenging but interesting work. Lots of problem solving and coordination across multiple time zones. You support yourself and Zoe with this work? I do. We're comfortable. We have what we need. Junwoo wishes to provide financial support, Mrs. Kang said. This is appropriate. He should contribute to his daughter's expenses. We're discussing it, Maya said carefully. I'm not opposed to Junwoo contributing, but I also want to make sure Zoe understands that child support isn't the same as being present. Money doesn't replace time and attention. Of course not, Mr. Kang agreed. But both are important. Financial stability and emotional connection. Junwoo should provide both. After dinner, Mrs. Kang asked to see Zoe's room. Maya led them upstairs, hyper-aware of the worn carpet and the scuffed walls that she kept meaning to repaint. Zoe's room was neat. She'd cleaned it obsessively that morning, but it was clearly the room of a child raised modestly, not in the luxury the Kangs were accustomed to. Mrs. Kang stood in the doorway, taking in the purple walls and the bookshelf and the desk with Zoe's homework neatly stacked. Her gaze landed on the nightstand where the ceramic turtle sat next to the framed photo of Maya and Zoe. Junwoo gave you this turtle, she said, picking it up carefully. In Seoul, Zoe confirmed. He said it means longevity and wisdom. It was his grandmother's favorite symbol. My mother collected turtle figurines. Mrs. Kang set the turtle down gently, her hand lingering on it. You keep it beside your bed. It reminds me of meeting him, of him choosing to know me. Mrs. Kang's face did something complicated. She turned to Maya. May I speak with you privately? Maya's stomach dropped, but she nodded. Junwoo, can you show your father the backyard? Zoe can give him a tour. Once they were alone in Zoe's room, Mrs. Kang stood by the window, her back straight, her hands clasped in front of her. I came here believing I would find a woman who trapped my son with a pregnancy, who kept his child from him to punish him or extract money. This is what I told myself to make sense of the situation. That's not what happened, Maya said quietly. I know. Junwoo showed me the emails you sent when you were pregnant. The returned money transfer. The years of no contact that you initiated, not him. You did not trap him. He ran from responsibility, and you let him run. I didn't want him in Zoe's life if he didn't want to be there. She deserved better than a father who resented her existence. Mrs. Kang turned to face her. You raised her well. She is polite, intelligent, confident. She knows who she is. This is not easy to do alone. Thank you, Maya said, unsure where this was going. I was wrong about you, and I was wrong to ask Junwoo to hide Zoe. A child is not a scandal. A child is a blessing, even when they arrive in complicated circumstances. Mrs. Kang's voice wavered slightly. I have been thinking much about my mother these past weeks. She died 5 years ago. She would have loved Zoe, loved her curiosity, her brightness. She would have been ashamed of me for trying to erase a granddaughter. Maya felt something loosen in her chest. It's not too late. Zoe is right downstairs. You could start getting to know her now. She will forgive me for how I treated her in Seoul? She's 10. She still believes in second chances, but you'll have to earn it. You'll have to show up for her the way Junwoo is learning to. Mrs. Kang nodded slowly. I would like to try, if you will permit it. It's not about my permission. It's about whether you can accept Zoe exactly as she is, American and Korean, raised by me, part of a family that doesn't look like yours. If you can do that, then yes, you can be in her life. I will try, Mrs. Kang said, and for the first time since Maya had met her, the older woman looked uncertain, vulnerable. I'm not good at changing my mind, but I am trying. They went back downstairs to find Zoe showing her grandfather the robotics kit. The two of them bent over the table as Zoe explained the programming sequence she'd created. Mr. Kang was asking technical questions, and Zoe was answering with growing confidence. Her face lit up with the joy of being taken seriously by an adult who understood what she was talking about. Junwoo caught Maya's eye from across the room and mouthed, "Thank you." Maya shook her head. She hadn't done this. Zoe had done this, just by being herself. Brilliant and brave and impossible not to love once you actually paid attention. Mrs. Kang approached the table hesitantly. Zoe, may I see what you are building? Zoe looked up, surprised. Sure. It's a robot that can sense obstacles and move around them. I'm still working on the sensor calibration, though. You programmed this yourself? Mom helped me with the basics, but yeah, mostly myself. Mrs. Kang studied the robot, then her granddaughter. When I was young, girls were not encouraged in such studies, but times change. You should pursue this interest. Engineering is valuable skill. I want to design spacecraft someday, Zoe said, watching her grandmother carefully. Like the kind that goes to Mars or beyond. Ambitious. Good. Kang family has always valued ambition. Mrs. Kang paused, then added softly, Would you show me how the robot works? I would like to understand. Zoe's face transformed with cautious hope. Really? Really? Maya watched her daughter show her grandmother the robot she'd built, explaining the mechanics and programming with growing animation as Mrs. Kang asked questions and nodded and actually listened. Junwoo stood beside Maya, his shoulder brushing hers. I didn't think she'd come around, he murmured. I thought we'd have to fight her on this for years. She's your mother, and Zoe is undeniably your daughter. Sometimes DNA speaks louder than prejudice. It's more than that. She sees what you've built, the life you've given Zoe, the person you've raised her to be. It's undeniable. Even my mother can't argue with results. Before Maya could respond, Rachel appeared at her elbow. I hate to break up this heartwarming moment, but Tom and I need to head out. Early morning tomorrow. Maya walked her sister to the door, accepting a fierce hug and whispered commentary. He really stepped up, huh? And his mom seems almost human now. You okay with all this? I'm cautiously optimistic, Maya admitted, which is terrifying because I'm usually just cautious. Sometimes terrifying is good. Sometimes it means you're actually letting yourself hope. After Rachel and Tom left, the evening continued with surprising ease. Mr. Kang and Zoe discovered a shared love of chess and played 2 games at the kitchen table while Junwoo and Maya cleaned up from dinner. Mrs. Kang watched her granddaughter play, occasionally offering strategic advice in a mix of English and Korean that Zoe was starting to understand through context. When the Kangs finally left around 9, Mrs. Kang paused on the porch. She looked at Maya with an expression that might have been respect. You have done well with her. Junwoo is fortunate that you are generous enough to share her with him now. I'm not generous, Maya said honestly. I'm doing what's best for Zoe. That happens to include letting her father back into her life. Still, you could have made this impossible. Many women would have. You did not. That is worth acknowledging. She turned to Zoe, who hovered in the doorway. I would like to visit again, if that is acceptable to you. Zoe glanced at Maya, who nodded permission. I'd like that, grandmother. Good. We will come back next month. And perhaps in summer you could visit Seoul. See where your father grew up, meet more of your family. Really? Zoe's eyes went wide. If your mother agrees, yes. You are Kang Ji-woo. You should know your Korean heritage. After they left, Zoe practically vibrated with excitement. Did you hear that? She wants me to visit Seoul. She called me Kang Ji-woo. I heard, Maya said, her emotions tangled between happiness for her daughter and anxiety about what this all meant for their simple life in Atlanta. Junwoo stayed after his parents left, helping Zoe get ready for bed and reading to her from one of the Korean children's books he'd sent. Maya listened from the hallway as his voice rose and fell through the story, Zoe occasionally interrupting to ask what a word meant, Junwoo patiently explaining. When Zoe was finally asleep, Junwoo came downstairs to find Maya on the couch with a glass of wine and the exhaustion of someone who'd just survived a high-stakes negotiation. Your mother surprised me, Maya said as he sat down on the other end of the couch, maintaining respectful distance. I expected her to barely tolerate being here. Instead, she actually connected with Zoe. She connected with the granddaughter she tried to pretend didn't exist, Junwoo said, which means she's capable of growth. That's something. Do you really think it'll last? Or is this just the novelty of meeting Zoe, and in 6 months she'll be back to wishing we'd disappear? I think my mother is stubborn and proud and terrible at admitting when she's wrong. But once she commits to something, she commits completely. If she's decided to accept Zoe, she'll follow through. She'll probably drive us all crazy with expectations and opinions, but she'll be present. And your father? Already planning Zoe's education. He mentioned sending her to a science camp in Seoul this summer, something affiliated with KEST. He's going to try to turn her into the engineer he always wanted Junwoo to be before the family business claimed me. Maya smiled despite herself. Zoe would love that. She's been obsessed with space exploration since she was 6. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the house quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic on the street. I'm staying through the weekend, Junwoo said. But then I need to get back to Seoul. There's a board meeting I can't miss. But I'll be back in 4 weeks. And I was thinking, if you're open to it, maybe Zoe could spend part of her summer break with me in Seoul. 2 or 3 weeks, you'd come too if you wanted. She could meet extended family, see the city properly. That's a big step, Maya said carefully. I know, but we've been doing this for 4 months now, video calls and visits every few weeks. At some point, we need to figure out what the long term looks like. I don't want to be just a guy who flies in occasionally. I want to be her father in a real, consistent way. What does that look like practically? You live in Seoul. We live here. Zoe has school, friends, a whole life in Atlanta. I know. And I'm not asking you to uproot everything you've built. But maybe we can find a middle ground. Summers in Seoul, holidays together, me coming here more frequently. Maybe eventually getting her into a program that teaches Korean language and culture so she can be truly bilingual. I have resources now that I can use to make this work, to bridge the distance without asking you to sacrifice what you've built. Maya studied him. This man who'd abandoned her pregnant and disappeared for a decade, who'd missed Zoe's entire childhood, who was now trying so hard to make up for it that it was almost painful to watch. You've really changed, she said quietly. Not just in your actions, but in who you are. The Junwoo I knew in Chicago would never have stood up to his parents the way you did. He would never have risked his inheritance for a child he barely knew. Meeting Zoe changed me. Seeing what I'd missed, understanding what I'd thrown away, I couldn't be that person anymore. The person who chose comfort over courage, reputation over responsibility. She deserves better. You both do. We managed fine without you, Maya said, needing him to understand that. We didn't need you to be okay. We were already okay. I know, that's what makes it even worse, that you built this beautiful life and raised this incredible child and did it all without any help from me. I can't make up for that, Maya. I can't give back the years I stole by not being there. But I can show up for the years ahead, if you'll let me. Maya thought about Zoe's face when Junwoo had stood up to his parents.
Thought about the way her daughter had started signing her school papers, Zoe Richardson, Kang Ji-woo, in careful letters. Thought about the video calls that had become the highlight of Zoe's week, the way she counted down days until Junwoo's visits. Okay, she said finally, we'll try the summer visit. Zoe and I will come to Seoul for 2 weeks in July.
But Junwoo, if this doesn't work, if you can't maintain this level of commitment when the novelty wears off and being a parent gets boring or hard, it won't, he interrupted. I know you don't fully trust that yet, and I understand why. But I promise you, Maya, I'm in this for the long haul. Zoe is my daughter. That's not going to change when things get difficult. If anything, the hard parts are when she'll need me most. We'll see, Maya said, but there was less skepticism in her voice than there'd been even a month ago. The weekend passed in a blur of normal family activities that felt surreal in their ordinariness. Junwoo took Zoe to her soccer game on Saturday and cheered so loudly that other parents turned to stare. They went to a movie Saturday evening, the three of them sharing popcorn and arguing good-naturedly about whether the plot made sense. Sunday morning, Junwoo made his now signature blueberry pancakes while Maya read the paper and Zoe did homework at the kitchen table. It felt like family. Not the family Maya had imagined when she was pregnant at 26, scared and alone, but a family nonetheless. Complicated and unconventional and built on a foundation of mistakes and redemption, but real. Sunday afternoon, Maya drove Junwoo to the airport for the second time. This goodbye was easier than the first. They'd proven now that he would come back, that the promises weren't empty. But it was still hard, watching Zoe hug her father and try not to cry. 4 weeks, Junwoo promised, holding his daughter tight. And then we'll start planning your summer trip to Seoul. You can help me pick what we'll do, where we'll go. Will I meet more family? Cousins, aunts, uncles? You have a whole extended family who don't even know you exist yet. They're gonna love you.
What if they don't? What if they're like grandmother was at first? Then they don't get the privilege of knowing you, Junwoo said firmly. You don't have to earn anyone's acceptance, Zoe. You exist, you're my daughter, and that's enough. Anyone who can't see how special you are doesn't deserve your time. After he'd gone through security, Maya and Zoe sat in the airport food court, picking at French fries and processing. It's weird, Zoe said finally. 6 months ago, I didn't have a dad. Now I have a dad and grandparents and a whole family in Korea, and I'm going to visit Seoul and learn Korean, and it's all just weird. Good weird or bad weird? Both? Like, good because I always wanted to know him, and now I do. But scary because what if something happens and it all goes away again? Maya took her daughter's hand across the table. That's the risk of loving people, baby. They can always leave or let you down or disappoint you. But the alternative is protecting yourself so much that you never let anyone in, and that's lonely. I think Junwoo, your dad, I think he's proven he's worth the risk. But that's your call to make. Do you think he's worth it? Maya considered the question seriously. 4 months ago, I would have said no, but he's shown up consistently, adjusted when we gave feedback, prioritized you over his comfort and his family's expectations. That's not nothing. So yeah, I think he's earned a real chance. What about you and him? Zoe asked with the blunt curiosity of a 10-year-old. Are you guys going to get back together? No, Maya said immediately. That ship sailed a long time ago. We're not right for each other as partners. But we can be good co-parents. We can work together to make sure you have what you need. That's enough. You're sure, because in movies, the parents always get back together at the end. This isn't a movie, sweetheart. Sometimes people can be good parents together without being romantic partners. Your dad and I, we have too much history, too much hurt, but we both love you, and we can build a different kind of family based on that. Zoe seemed to accept this. Okay, I just wanted to make sure you were happy too, not just me. Maya's heart squeezed. I am happy, baby. Happier than I've been in a long time. Because I get to watch you have a relationship with your father. I get to see you claim both halves of your heritage. And I get to know that all the hard work I put in raising you alone is paying off in who you're becoming. 3 months later, Maya and Zoe stepped off a plane at Incheon International Airport into the Seoul summer humidity. Junwoo was waiting at arrivals, his face splitting into a smile when he spotted them. This time there was no awkwardness.
No hesitation. Zoe ran straight to him, and he scooped her up even though she was really too big for it now, both of them laughing. "Welcome back," he said. "Ready to see your other home?" The 2 weeks in Seoul were a whirlwind of family introductions and cultural immersion. Junwoo's parents hosted a formal dinner where Zoe met aunts and uncles and cousins, who ranged from cautiously welcoming to genuinely delighted. His younger cousin Min Jun immediately bonded with Zoe over a shared love of video games and spent hours teaching her Korean gaming slang. Junwoo's aunt, his mother's sister, took one look at Zoe and declared she had the Kang family artistic talent, promptly enrolling her in a traditional ink painting class for the week. They visited palaces and markets and museums. Junwoo showed Zoe the neighborhood where he'd grown up, the school he'd attended, the park where he used to play. They ate at hole-in-the-wall restaurants Junwoo had loved as a teenager and expensive places his family frequented for special occasions. Zoe's Korean improved daily through immersion, Junwoo patiently correcting her pronunciation and teaching her new words. Mrs. Kang, who had insisted Zoe call her halme oni, the Korean word for grandmother, took Zoe shopping for hanbok and to a traditional tea ceremony. She told stories about Junwoo as a child that made him squirm and made Zoe laugh. She was formal and demanding and had impossibly high expectations, but she showed up. She put in effort. She was trying. On the last night of their visit, Junwoo's parents hosted a farewell dinner at their home, the same house where Maya and Zoe had been essentially rejected 6 months earlier. But this time, Mrs. Kang welcomed them warmly, showing Zoe to a bedroom she'd prepared specifically for her granddaughter's visits. "This is your room when you come to Seoul," she explained, "so you have a space that belongs to you." The room was beautiful, decorated in soft purples and creams, with a shelf already filling with Korean books and toys, a desk set up for studying. On the nightstand was a small ceramic turtle, a match to the one Junwoo had given Zoe in that street market months ago. "Grandmother, this is too much," Zoe breathed. "It is exactly enough," Mrs. Kang said firmly. "You are family. Family has a place in this home." At dinner, surrounded by Junwoo's extended family, Maya watched her daughter laugh at a joke her cousin made in Korean, watched her confidently use chopsticks to grab banchan from serving dishes, watched her exist comfortably in both worlds, American and Korean, Richardson and Kang. Junwoo caught her watching and leaned over. "Thank you for bringing her here, for letting her be part of this." "Thank you for fighting to make it possible," Maya replied. That night, after Zoe was asleep in her new room, Maya stood on the balcony of Junwoo's parents' home, looking out over Seoul's glittering skyline. Junwoo joined her, 2 glasses of wine in hand. "I've been thinking," he said, handing her a glass, "about the future, about what this looks like long term." "Oh?" Maya sipped the wine, waiting. "I don't want to be a part-time father. I don't want Zoe to have 2 separate lives that barely connect, so I've been exploring options. Cheonsung is opening a U.S. office in Atlanta next year. They need someone to oversee it, and I've proposed myself for the position." Maya nearly choked on her wine. "You want to move to Atlanta?" "Not full-time, but I could split my time, 2 weeks in Seoul, 2 weeks in Atlanta, rotating. It would mean I could be more present in Zoe's daily life. Help with homework, go to her soccer games regularly, be there for the small moments, not just the big visits." "Junwoo, that's..." Maya struggled to process. "That's a huge change. What about your parents? The company headquarters?" "My parents are adjusting to the idea, slowly, and the company will survive. My second-in-command is more than capable of handling day-to-day operations when I'm in the U.S. This is about priorities. Zoe is my priority." "You're sure? Because once you commit to that kind of schedule, you can't back out when it gets hard. Zoe will depend on you being there." "I know, and I want to be there, not as a visitor or a special occasion parent, but as someone who's actually involved in her life, if you're okay with that. I know it's your space, your city, your home with her. I don't want to intrude." Maya thought about what this would mean. Junwoo present not just for planned visits, but for regular dinners, school events, the mundane reality of co-parenting. It was terrifying and complicated and nothing like what she'd planned when she booked those tickets to Seoul. But Zoe deserved a father who was actually there, and Junwoo had proven, over 6 months of consistent effort, that he was serious about being that father.
Okay, Maya said. We'll try it. But Junwoo, if this arrangement starts to feel like you're overstepping, or if it's not working for Zoe, we revisit it. Her well-being comes first. Always, he agreed. Her well-being always comes first. They flew back to Atlanta the next day, Zoe chattering the entire flight about everything she'd seen and done and learned. She'd filled a journal with Korean words and phrases, taken hundreds of photos, collected small souvenirs for her friends. She'd also, Maya noticed, started naturally code switching between English and Korean, her brain adapting to bilingual life faster than Maya would have thought possible. "Mom?" Zoe asked as they waited for their luggage at Atlanta's baggage claim. "Is it okay that I'm happy about having Dad in my life? Like, I know it was hard for you that he wasn't there before.
I don't want you to think I've forgotten that." Maya pulled her daughter close. "Baby, I am so happy that you're happy. That's all I've ever wanted, for you to have everything you need and deserve. Your dad being present, being a real father to you, that's good. That's what should have happened from the beginning. Don't feel guilty for wanting a relationship with him." "But what about you? Are you okay with all of this?" Maya thought about the past 6 months, the fear and hope, and watching Junwoo transform from the man who'd abandoned her into someone worthy of their daughter. She thought about the future they were building, complicated and unconventional, but real. "Yeah," she said honestly. "I'm okay with it. Better than okay. I'm proud of you for being brave enough to reach out, for giving your dad a chance to make things right. And I'm proud of him for actually doing the work. We're building something good here, Zoe. All 3 of us together." 2 months later, Junwoo moved into a condo in Atlanta, 15 minutes from Maya's house. He showed up for his first parent-teacher conference and listened to Zoe's 5th grade teacher rave about her science project. He coached her soccer team when the regular coach had emergency surgery, despite knowing almost nothing about soccer and having to learn the rules from YouTube. He sat through her school play and cheered louder than anyone when she had exactly 2 lines. He drove her to her first orthodontist appointment and held her hand when she got nervous about braces. He wasn't perfect. He forgot about early dismissal one Wednesday, and Zoe had to wait at school for an hour. He said yes to too much sugar before bed, and then dealt with Maya's irritation the next day when Zoe was exhausted. He scheduled a business call during Zoe's championship soccer game and had to apologize profusely for missing the first half. But he showed up, he adjusted, he learned, and slowly, day by day, he became what he'd promised to be, Zoe's father. A year after that first trip to Seoul, Maya sat in the stands at Zoe's middle school graduation, Junwoo on one side and Rachel on the other. Junwoo's parents had flown in for the ceremony, Mrs. Kang in another expensive suit, Mr. Kang with a camera taking approximately 1,000 photos. When Zoe walked across the stage to receive her certificate, accepting it as Zoe Richardson Kang, the hyphenated name they'd legally added 6 months earlier, Maya felt tears streak down her face. Junwoo reached over and squeezed her hand, his own eyes wet. "We did it," he whispered. "She's amazing." "She always was," Maya whispered back. "You just finally showed up to see it." "Better late than never?" Maya looked at her daughter, confident, brilliant, fully herself in both her American and Korean identities, surrounded by family from both sides of her heritage, and smiled. "Yeah," she said, "better late than never, then." After the ceremony, they all went out for barbecue. Maya's family and Junwoo's parents and Zoe's friends and their parents in a chaotic celebration that spanned 2 tables and 3 different conversations happening simultaneously in English and Korean. Zoe moved between groups effortlessly, translating when needed, laughing at her grandfather's jokes, and showing her American friends the graduation gift her grandmother had brought from Seoul. As the sun set over Atlanta and the restaurant filled with the sound of celebration, Maya watched Junwoo help Zoe cut her cake while Mrs. Kang took photos, and Mr. Kang explained something technical to Zoe's science teacher. She watched her daughter exist fully in both worlds, claimed by both families, belonging everywhere because she'd been brave enough to demand the space she deserved. They'd walked into that Seoul lobby with nothing but DNA evidence and courage. They'd faced down rejection and fought for acknowledgement. They'd built a family from the rubble of abandonment and absence, and somehow, impossibly, it had worked. Zoe caught her eye across the restaurant and grinned, holding up her cake and a toast. Maya raised her water glass in return, her heart so full it hurt. They'd come so far from that scared single mother and fatherless child. They'd claimed what was theirs, demanded dignity, and built something beautiful from broken pieces. And the best part? This wasn't the ending. This was just the beginning.